Good evening. Welcome back to Sci-Fi Chronicles for the Pub Chat live show. It's me, John Yulden, and my good friends, the Mega Geek and Swappers. How you doing, guys? You all right?
All right.
Yeah, not bad, mate. It's annoying me really because every time that I'm on a stream with Ian, he's always eating.
Yeah, I know.
And that doesn't annoy me in itself. It's just the fact that it's always either after I've eaten and I've finished my eating for the day and I don't want to eat it, or I'm on something like a 3-day water fast when I'm trying to avoid food, right? At the moment, I'm on a 3-day water fast. So seeing Ian there, enjoying his lovely crunchy delights of whatever they are is really bloody annoying me. So I'm going to have to nip off and go and sort of find some chill.
Yeah, nibbles.
Every once in a while. Look at him. Look, he's doing it. He's doing it to annoy me.
It's like a sponsorship deal that he's got in place for every stream that he goes on.
No sponsorship.
You know, like he just pull a bounty out of somewhere in a minute, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
We've got quite a few people in the chat already. Good to see you. So tonight we're going to be doing our usual thing. So we'll be talking about everything, just riffing away. But there's a few things that we will be focusing in on tonight. So we are going to be discussing and ranking the Star Trek movies. Okay, so that's going to be one thing tonight. We're also going to be talking about Rush Hour 4 being in development, Stranger Things 5, Simu Liu comments about lack of Asian representation, and then a few other things. So we've got a smorgasbord of chat tonight. So let's enjoy it all. Yeah,
certainly.
So to start things off with, guys, and I will share my screen. So we've got Rush Hour 4 then, as I was just saying, in development. So let's just pop that up. You see that okay? And no, that's a small screen. Stuff it. There we go. So it's in development and they're saying it's at Trump's request.
I think Trump said something that encouraged the company to push it forward. I can't remember. I don't know the full story. But I know
he's connected with Ellison at Paramount, the guy who's just bought Paramount, isn't he? He's friends with him, I think.
Right.
So that's possibly it. I mean, what are your thoughts on it, guys? I mean, I don't mind this. I like the Rush Hour movies. If it's done right, it'll be great. I'm not quite sure Jackie Chan is up to doing his stunts anymore, to be honest. But what do you guys think?
I didn't like the third one. I thought the third one was okay. It wasn't as good as the first and the second one. But there is a problem here that they're a lot more older now, both of them. And Chris Tucker, his face is kind of broadened out, hasn't it? Have you not noticed that?
Yeah.
I saw him interviewed recently. His face has kind of gotten fatter, and he's put on a lot of weight. And Jackie Chan looks really looks old. He looks old. He still can do the stunts, still making films in his own country. So he can still do the stunts. But will it work the fifth time around? The fourth time around? We don't know. We will find out, right? So
they're not necessarily making this because they've got a story to tell. It's just because they think that people will watch it.
Yeah.
That's never a good. That's never usually a good formula, is it?
No.
I mean, again, if it just becomes a good comedy action movie without any of we talked about so many times, the woke in it, then it could be good. But again, we're in an era where you're constantly having to fight through that checkbox before you can even get it greenlit, aren't you? Really, it will be a test for Paramount as well, and whether because they said a few months ago that they basically pulled away from the DEI, obviously to try and get closer to Trump. I think it's because they wanted to have him help approve the purchase of Paramount, Ellison and Co. So. It's really going to be a test, really, this and other stuff that comes out from Paramount to see whether they are true about saying that they are effectively stepping away from the woke side of things and just wanting to tell good stories, or whether it's going to be just layered across everything that they do going forward. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Well, all the execs in Hollywood, they're scared to create something new. All they're doing is taking existing IPs and making either sequels or prequels, and that's all they're doing really. They're not. And then when something new does come out, it's usually affected by the woke or the politics of today. Like what was that film with Leonardo DiCaprio? Apparently that's meant to be it's meant to be politics driven. The one with Jennifer, what's her face? I can't remember her name. Jennifer, not Jennifer Anderson, Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah. That film, apparently that didn't do very well either, even though it was an original story. That didn't do well. So Hollywood is not going to be putting their faith into something new. They're just going to be grabbing IPs at this moment in time and doing sequels to them, which maybe the audience don't care about. Also, it's been proven now that star power doesn't sell at all. So I don't know what they're going to do going forward.
Yeah. What do you think, Swappers?
Yeah, I mean, it's been that way for quite a while, hasn't it? They've been allergic to doing any kind of new IP or new story or anything. Their first option will always be, let's see what exists already, what made money before, and let's just do a new one. Yeah. Or let's do a prequel, or let's do a spin-off, or whatever. It's always related to something that was already successful, and more often than not, it just ends up tainting the thing that was great.
Yeah.
Like they can't
handing the reins off to a daughter or something like that as well. Yeah.
God. And with the under this like DEI era that we have inflicted on us, they've got that kind of template where they have to do that. We've seen it God knows how many times. We know almost before these things are even released, that's the way they're going to go with it. And it's been like, we all thought that was going to how it was going to be with that Beverly Cops movie, didn't we? That fourth one. And immediate reactions were like, "Oh, he's going to have a daughter, and she's going to do all the."
And she did, and he did.
You see it coming a mile off, and for some reason they don't think we've got wise to it after seeing it about 3 times. That's all we needed. We knew which way it was going to go. We know which way the wind blows now. So they seem to be oblivious. Hollywood are just this dumb, and they know people have been crying out for new ideas and new stories and stuff for so long because we're constantly fed and regurgitated stuff. And we just look at it and just go, seen it. We look at the movie poster or look at the trailer and we go, no way we know which way that's going to go. I'm not going to bother with that one. Oh, look, strong independent women's in the main role. Oh no, men are all the idiots. No, I'm not going to watch it. So I mean, I do wonder what they're going to do with this Rush Hour, and are the main characters going to take a back seat? Are they going to be replaced by their much more capable daughters, for instance? It would be great if they're front and center and it's completely non-DEI, and it's they genuinely do, even if they haven't got a concept for the movie before its inception. They at least get some talented writers on board that can formulate something and formulate a great story that can at least match the worst one of the previous 3, because I think that's the best we can hope for, I guess. I mean, Rush Hour 1 and 2 were actually genuinely entertaining. They genuinely surprised me. I didn't see them at all for ages and ages. I only saw them on VHS back when we had VHS.
Good fun movies.
Yeah, I think I saw the first one on TV with my girlfriend. We both laughed our asses off all the way through. I thought it was genuinely good. And I thought, wow, right, Rush Hour 2's out there somewhere. Let's go and rent it. So the next night we went and rented Rush Hour 2 and watched it and loved that as well. We thought, this is amazing. Then they made the third one. It was kind of like, I don't know, they're stretching this a bit thin now, They sort of made a film to just for the sake of rounding off a trilogy because they think there's a franchise to be had out of it, or are they kind of, just eking it out?
Well, the third one really ended badly. I don't know if you remember the third one. They had this big action sequence in Paris on the Eiffel Tower. And at the ending, right, the police cop that was chasing them, kind of, I don't know, because when everything's wrapped up, he says something to him and they punch him in the face and they both walk off dancing. like this, putting her hands in the air. And I'm like, and it finished. I'm like, what? Do you know what I mean? So I was just confused over that ending. Totally. You know,
very peculiar.
So, yeah, it was like they gave up on the film or something. I don't know. But yeah. Weird.
I can't even remember the third one, if I'm honest. I need to go back and rewatch it. I don't remember.
It's the one with the good-looking black girl that when she takes, she's wearing a wig and she's completely bald or something like that, wasn't it? When,
that's right.
Yeah, remember that scene? Yeah, that was quite funny.
I mean, again, I think what was great about them at the time is, you had the Chris Tucker comedy element, but you had the stunts from Jackie Chan, and I think I wouldn't put it past Jackie Chan to try it now, but knowing him, because he's insane. But he's just not able to do it now, and I think that was what was so special about those first few movies, that you were seeing all those stunts that he was doing. I mean, I always love seeing the extras, you know, with him actually doing them as just as much as the movie.
Yeah, but you say that, John, in the film with him and Pierce Brosnan in it, he was a man of age in that film, and he was still doing his own stunts. Do you know what I mean? And it was pretty impressive what he was doing. It wasn't on the level of the stuff he does in his own country, but you could still see that he's doing it. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think he's still capable.
Good to see you, Brendan. Yeah, so Brendan says, guys, but have you lads heard that so many in LA and the industry are leaving the profession?
Yeah.
No one wants to risk their ideas and pitches being pulled apart by current fads and DEI.
No, I did not know that. But that's kind of heartening, isn't it, to hear that? Because it's not just us. Because it's so easy to feel like you're in a tiny little minority complaining about these things and wondering to yourself, is it just me complaining and it's not really an issue? Obviously, we know it's an issue, but we don't get to see the wider world and how pissed off everyone else is about this. So to hear that kind of thing, it does reinforce what we know. And also it does give a little bit of confidence back to the industry, because if the people working in it are thinking this as well as us, then maybe something can be done about it.
Maybe. Who knows?
I mean, I've said before, you know, with DEI and everything, just because you supposedly got this DEI policy doesn't mean every show or movie you do has to have a diverse cast here, there, and everywhere. You can do a diverse series, and you can do a series that's true to an adaptation. You don't have to have DEI in every single production. You can literally split it out. So you've got different shows and movies. But they want to put it in every single production. That's what people get fed up with, and we are fed up with.
I just I told this story last week, if people remember, of my friend Ella, who's like obviously in Rebecca Girl. She plays Rebecca. She was up for a film shooting in Cyprus, and then she got confirmation today. And and let me read this out. And the director said to her, this is reading her text, productions have basically said Rachel, who's the character she was up for, needs to be a diverse role. I was battling it and trying to get other characters as non-white, but in the end, it didn't happen. I really wanted you on this, and I'm sorry it's taken this long. So she's out because she's not a person of color.
And that's discrimination by itself, isn't it?
Exactly. This is the thing, right? What's interesting about it is, look, I am a man of color, and when I write characters, 9 times out of 10 they are white, right? Because I see myself in neither here or there. When I was growing up, I was never attacked for being mixed race or anything like. I never suffered from any of that stuff. My brothers did, because my brothers are darker than me, like Lee. He was always fighting people because of his color, and same thing with my brother Chris. But my brother Chris is huge, so nobody really tried to beat him up.
Went there.
Nobody went there. But that's what I'm saying. So the thing is, you write what you know, always. Okay. So George Lucas, when he was writing Star Wars, Luke was a blue-eyed blonde guy. You know, he wasn't going to suddenly write someone that was black in his movie, because that's not what he's I think he's Jewish, isn't he, Lucas?
Yeah.
You know, he's going to write what he knows. And to tell someone when they've created something that they have to change their vision is just outrageous, I find. It's like standing in front of someone when they're painting on a canvas and they're painting this beautiful tree, and someone behind says, "I've commissioned you to do that. I know it's your idea, but I want those leaves on the tree blue."
Yeah.
Then it's not yours. Then once you start complying to that nonsense,
it makes you wonder how the Mona Lisa would have turned out, or the Sistine Chapel would have turned out if these DEI morons were involved. You know?
Exactly.
Half of it bright pink.
I actually don't think my example works too well, but you know what I'm trying to say. I think it's a crime that they're telling artistic people how to create. And they need to change things, and it's like no.
Well, Lucas based Star Wars and Luke Skywalker off the old 1940s Flash Gordon serials, and Buster Crabbe played Flash Gordon in the TV show, and before that it was Flash Gordon in the comics. He was always a blonde-haired white guy, so it was just that archetype that he was emulating with Luke Skywalker. So you can't then go suddenly forcing diversity into something that's inspired your character because, to please people that get offended or whatever,
Yeah. And also, sorry,
mate, you go.
Go ahead.
You go for it. Yeah.
I can't
all I was gonna say was, what your example, Ian, is. Look at James Cameron, where he talks about Terminator, and he says he had that fever when he was in Paris.
Yeah,
and he dreamt of the Terminator in his dream. That now, if he had that, and he wasn't as powerful as he is now, and he'd gone to someone, they said, right, okay, yeah, that's great, but you're going to have to put them in a dress, and they're going to have pink hair. That completely changes his horror dream that he had of the Terminator.
And they're going to need to go and get a job in a draper's.
But guys, why is it okay for one side and it isn't okay for the other? Ryan Coogler, who made Sinners, right, in his film, he had mostly a black cast and I think 2 white people in it. Now, is that diversity? No, there should at least be 5 more white people in that film, but it doesn't. The rules doesn't apply to people. To people.
No,
like
it only goes one way. Right. You're right.
It only goes one way,
which is
ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So and I would say this as well. I would say that if the studios need to give them their own line instead of them destroying other IPs and just sticking their crap in there. Do you know what I mean? Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon introduced a black James Bond and he was gay. Wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. So this is where we're going.
Yeah, that sounds like a very terrifying prophecy, to be honest, mate. I really hope you're wrong on that one.
Yeah, so do I.
So do I. Think what they do with the intro.
Changing to hello 7.
Yeah. Well, they introduced. I call him Sid James because he's looking like Sid James these days. The last James Bond person.
He's probably younger than you, isn't he? He looks about 20 years older than you.
Yeah. So I they've already made him gay. Do you remember in which one was it? I can't remember which James Bond film. The guy touches his leg. Do you remember? Touches his thigh.
Oh yeah.
That scene.
Skyfall.
Yeah, and also in
Q.
In that onion rubbish that what's his name, Roundhead makes. Apparently, the main character is meant to be gay in there. There's loads of suggestions that he's gay. So I'm saying another thing I like to mention. I was watching Stranger Things 5 today. I think it's 3 episodes or 4 episodes. I can't remember. Why do they have to have this gay thing in TV show? Look at Goonies, right? It's the same premise apart from ghosts. It's you got people chasing them and stuff like that, and it's an adventure with teenagers. How comes they didn't have one of the characters say I'm gay or kiss another person of the same gender? Why is it important to put that in crap now? That was solely placed in Stranger Things today, which I almost threw something at the screen, but then again, it's my TV, so I'm not going to throw anything at the screen because of that stupid show. So, you know what I mean? I don't understand why they have to do this.
I was watching Nerdrotic, guys, late last night, and I'm paraphrasing here, but because again, full disclosure, I've not seen any of Stranger Things, so I need to go through it from the beginning. But he was saying about the fact that in this latest series, I think it's Maya Hawke's character that they've made turned into well, one of the characters is a lesbian. But he was saying about the fact that from watching the series, it always felt more organic that she was going to go with with a male character. Again, I don't know who that is, but it was almost like they got to this point where someone said, "Oh, hang on a minute, there's a box that needs to be ticked here. We need to find somebody that's going to be a lesbian in the show." And they literally then went, "Okay, this character will now be lesbian." And again, that's the trouble you've got. Like you say, it's what you've said before, Ian, and you guys have said before. It's the forced diversity. It's not organic. It's just it. I think it just audiences just stop like that straight away, like a stone. They're going, "That's taken me out of it now. There's no need for it. You know, I'm tired of it. I was into the story, but now this has come up." And again,
Also,
you've said before, we're not racist, we're not phobes, we're not any of that. We just want balance, and we just want good stories that don't have these forced policies put into them.
Oh, also, right? Why? I mean, there are some good male characters in there, mostly kids. But why is it that the males are always stupid and like for instance that lesbian character you mentioned, now she's has a radio station, and she's the one that's on the mic going, you know, blah blah blah, and the bloke at the back is fiddling with things, trying to put tapes in for her and all that. I'm like, and also, why are kids in the 80s telling adults to go fuck themselves or shut up, you don't know what you're talking about? Because I remember the 80s, and if you said that to your dad, he would smack you around the head.
I had soap in the mouth.
Right. Any adult would not put up with that nonsense. Why are they putting today's values into something that's meant to be set in the 80s or the 70s? Which is completely wrong, in my opinion.
But like you say, you give the example of the Goonies, and Goonies, you know, we've talked about it before. You're not the biggest fan of it, but for me, it's my childhood, and I loved it. And it was just that whole childhood growing up, that adventure with your mates out on your bikes, you know, that it had that spirit to it. Now, you're right. It would be one of them would be gay or would be having a dilemma about whether they were or they weren't. They'd have to slow the film down to probably have a scene in it like that. And you know, they would be talking back or diminishing another character. They've forgotten the art of entertainment first, and they need to get back to that. What do you guys think on that? It's just they need to focus on entertaining people first instead of preaching.
No, it's look, I should really let Swabbers talk, but let me just say this, right? When you watch the Goonies, right, and I'm not a big fan of the Goonies, right, they had things that were just normal. Like, for instance, Carrie Green's skirt was really short, right? She was a what do you call those people who dance in front of the crowd, whatever? What do you call them?
Cheerleader.
She was a cheerleader, and her skirt was short, and she has got great legs, right? You'd never have that now. That would be not allowed. It's just so stupid, right? If you're making a period piece, you're supposed to follow what happened in that period, right?
Yeah.
They were bullies. But I don't remember any kid that would over-talk an adult, especially when you were at school. I remember when I was at school in the 80s, beginning 80s, and in the 70s, you said something wrong, the teacher would hit you. The teacher would slap you around the head or pull you out of the class physically. So applying today's standards to those shows just goes to show that, again, it's part of the force DEI rubbish.
Diversity.
That's what it is. So anyway, I digress.
And
sorry, Swaps.
What do you think, Swaps? Anything to add in on that?
Well, I'll just say that what I was going to say a few minutes ago was whenever I sit down and watch anything now, this has only been like the last sort of 3 or 4 years, whenever I sit down and watch anything, if it's usually if it's a new property or a new story, or if it's a new season of a story where there's been a time jump, my eyes are always looking for things now. Like I'm always sort of studying the personalities and the dialogue, because I'm just trying to work out, right, when's the first bit of DEI going to come in here? Who are they going to make gay? Are they going to turn somebody gay? Which is the gay one? And it takes away completely from the enjoyment of the show, because you're just expecting them to inject their crap. And it puts you on edge, and you're not just able to just relax into a show and watch it and enjoy it like we used to be able to, without any kind of fear of pushing any kind of messaging or ideology. So it's like that new Stargate series. When that comes out, that's the first thing I'm going to be thinking. And it's like, if I sat down and watched Stranger Things first couple of episodes I didn't even get to the second episode, the first episode of season 4, which I haven't watched yet. And I got through about 75% of the show, and I remembered what Ian had said about it like a couple of years ago when it first aired. And it's the reason why I never watched it, because back then I thought, oh God, what kind of crap are they going to put into it now? And Ian confirmed it by saying, oh, they made Will Byers gay or something, or suggested he was gay. And I went, you know what? I'll probably get around to watching it eventually, but I can't be asked. 2 years later, I still haven't bothered because of that.
I don't blame you.
The same with season 5. It's going to be like, can I be asked to watch this? Because it's just, when I see their ideology in there, it makes me feel dirty by association, and I just do not want to expose myself to it. Do you know what I mean?
Again, right, I just like to say, right, there's nothing wrong with having gay characters in TV shows, but when it gets infiltrated and there's no reason for it to be there, right? That's when I have a problem. Okay,
because the story and everything has been compromised to make room for it. Whereas if it's done organically and the character's actually supposed to be that way, and it's part of the story and it's all natural and it's part of how the story flows, there's not an issue. But we know that's not how it is now. They're doing it to force their ideology onto us. That's what turns me off.
It's sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, mate. I was just going to say, from the past, what I hate about it is as well, they always talk like they're doing something groundbreaking and new, when we know that 20, 30 years ago there were people doing it then, but they didn't. But the difference was they didn't preach and virtue signal about it. They wrote well-crafted characters, 3-dimensional characters. I mean, for me, I grew up enjoying the 90s and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You had a lesbian couple in that were well written, and it didn't take you out of the story. You had Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I mean, Jadzia was a trill, that had effectively was the early version of trans, and we didn't care about
female,
because we were engaged with these characters. You had strong female characters in Stargate, Star Trek, other movies as well, and it's just now that they're pushing this, and yet they're deliberately pretending they don't remember anything from the past, or there's execs in charge now who actually haven't watched anything from the past, and they think that this is going to be great, this is groundbreaking, this will get people watching us.
Another part of DEI, which people don't realize, it is the push for that, is disrespecting the rank of people. Like, for instance, in Stranger Things 5, right? 9, is it? No, what's the girl's name? 7? I can't remember her name. What's the main
11.
character?
7 and 9.
11. Right. When her adopted father tells her to do something, the main guy, she's always going fuck off, or no, or get lost, or I'll do my thing, whatever. But I remember the 80s. When you said no, it was like bang, you will. Do you know what I mean? You will. I know she's got powers.
If you put that on screen now, you just offend so many people, because it's like, oh my God, they hit their child, and then they're like endless letters to the TV or streaming company or whatever. But you remember E.T. and Close Encounters? That's how children were respectful to their elders. They're respectful to everybody. That all they have to do is go back and look at classic movies and to see how it was.
That's part of the DEI thing, right? They like to. So basically, what they're saying is, people that have authority, fuck them. You just got to look at Star Trek, where Ensign Mount, whatever his name is, or he would say, take a left and go, all right, just get off my ass, Captain. Do you know what I mean? Like, you would have been kicked off. You would have been kicked off the bridge if that was Kirk. You're like, get off my bridge. Do you know what I mean? You got no respect, But in the DEI shit, that's what they like doing. They like say no one of authority can tell anyone what to do. That's that's part of it, and a lot of people don't realize that that is part of it. So they play that very well.
I mean, again, I talked last week about the news of Stargate coming back, and guys, I'm a massive Stargate fan, and I get where you're coming from. I think for me, the thing that fills me with confidence is that there's Brad Wright and Joe Malossi coming back, who were involved with the initial, and they said that it's not going to be a reboot, it's going to be a continuation. That gives me confidence. Now, again, nothing is guaranteed in this world anymore. You're right. It could turn out that, everyone going through the gates got pink hair and, got nose rings, you don't know. It's, but I really do trust those producers and writers so much. And that team, created some fantastic Stargate stories.
You shouldn't do. Because one of them was responsible for bringing back Quantum Leap, and that was as DEI pushed diversity shit as strong as you can get it.
From what I've heard, and I'm looking into it, apparently he did the pilot, and there was season 1. He was involved in season 1. Season 2 was a new producer that came in, and that's where it got far worse. Apparently, I didn't watch it, so I don't know.
I watched season 1.
Yeah,
it was woke.
Okay,
so
you've watched it. No, I haven't watched any of it. As I said,
right, well, there you go.
I think for me though, I'm basing what my belief on the fact that these writers, they've written some of my favorite Stargate stories, and they're coming back to do Stargate. They know Stargate. Right. If I'm wrong, then I'll be like, okay, well,
Swappers,
I'll say goodbye to it.
Swappers, yeah. Did you see the look on John's face when I said that? I think I crushed his dream. When I said that season 1 was woke, his face just dropped. It's like, oh no,
mate, you crushed my dream years ago, mate. You basically, it's when you said to me Doctor Who was shit, and then I was like, do you know what? He's ain't right. He's right.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same for me with God knows how many things. I mean, I really enjoyed The Force Awakens, and I wouldn't have anyone sort of say anything bad against it. I wouldn't like shut people down or have a go at them or anything, but I just I'd always try to defend it. Even though I wasn't a hugest fan of it or anything like that, but I thought, wow, they could really go somewhere with the trilogy with this film. Yeah. They've established something good here. But when I look back on it now, when I see what everyone was saying about it, I'm like, so right. It takes somebody to mention these things, otherwise you could be completely blind to it, and because you've got I think what Gary Beekler coined the phrase hypnosis, where you're kind of carried along by your belief and will to enjoy something so much that you won't accept the fact that anything could be different. And it's sadly that's the cold hard reality that it was with Disney Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, Ian actually saved me from Who. He put me in a fridge for a couple of days, like a kitchen fridge. It made me go cold turkey on it,
Yeah.
That's another example that I said out of every IP, Doctor Who was destroyed the most.
That's the ultimate example.
Yeah, they were stepping on its grave, and they're still stamping on the ashes. What's left of it?
Yeah,
that's what they're doing, and they're going to stamp even more when they release that crappy, don't call them Sea Devil shit. So
it's so bad, man. It's so bad. It just, again, anyone who's got hope that show is ever going to be good again, I'm sorry, but I've got many con jobs to sell you because it's not, I don't like to give up the fight, but I gave up the fight a while ago, and I'm just quite happy now moving on and enjoying other stuff. A lot of my retro stuff.
You can't really cling to the idea of something and want it to still be true, because it's just going to harm you, isn't it? Ultimately, it's best to sort of move on and concentrate on something else, or go back to the stuff that really made you feel great and concentrate on that. Because we know the way the industry is, and because of this this infection has got so deep into it. It's not going to change within a decent amount of time. Maybe in 10, 20 years, maybe something will happen and everyone will turn around and go, my God, that was ridiculous. What were we thinking? And never go back to it and gatekeep everything and make sure there's good quality out there. But, it's a bit of a gamble, isn't it? So we won't know until that happens. So it's absolutely right. You should move on and immerse yourself in stuff that makes you feel great instead of constantly thinking about what could have been.
Just hate watching. Yeah, exactly.
The BBC is in trouble anyway. A lot of what did they say? There was it 5 million or 6 million have not renewed their TV license.
Yeah,
and the BBC's in trouble with money and stuff like that. So, and the BBC, right, according to some people that I know, they think that the BBC is too right.
It's bad, isn't it?
How?
It's deluded.
How? Do you know what I mean?
If that's right, I shudder to think what left is.
What? Too right? What are you talking about? Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it, when you think about it? In fact, I think I can speak for you two guys. I used to love the BBC when I was young. I used to think they used to make the greatest shows on obviously some of the American stuff was absolutely terrific, but when it came to hard-boiled decent dramas, BBC was it, wasn't it?
I think you're right. I've said to you before, Ian, my dad worked for the BBC, God rest his soul. He worked for the BBC for over 30 years. And I had the Christmas parties in the BBC studios in Bristol. They'd have all the kids there, bouncy castles in the studio, giving out presents, all of that. So I grew up in that kind of environment, and it was fantastic getting into the really wild show and all that. And I always used to walk around at school, and where kids would talk about, oh, my dad does this, that, I always felt really proud and really happy when I used to say, my dad works for the BBC. And the friends were around me and people would go, oh, brilliant. Can you get us in and do all of that? Yeah. Now, I'm ashamed of the BBC because it's just, again, the BBC, I think someone put a post out the other day and they said, go back and watch BBC 4, because BBC 4, I think they're doing a lot of classic stuff from the 70s and the 80s. And they said that will remind you how good the BBC was. The rest of it, it's like night and day. That BBC does not exist anymore. What do you guys think on that?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Definitely. I advise people now these days, I actively advise people to get rid of the license because I know what it's funding. And I can't fund it in good conscience. Because the BBC, and we all know, have got a terrible track record for doing rather nasty things and sheltering certain nasty people, etc. So it's become a horrible institution now. I don't know what happened to it. I don't believe it was always that way, but over the last 30 years, something really bad happened to it. And unfortunately, it's infested all areas of the corporation. And I think it's just been used as a propaganda factory for governments and certain governmental ideologies. So, you go back in time and you can see some really, really good stuff. I mean, it was a bastion of quality on TV for a long, long time. We got some great stuff out of it. I mean, look at Blake Seville. It might not have been the greatest funded piece of television, but the writing in there was amazing. And the reverence for sci-fi and the acting and everything, it was such a high quality show, whether they were working on plastic sets or not. And they really used to have pride in what they used to put out. And, it wasn't just entertainment, it was news as well. It was held as like a really high standard all over the board across the world. Yeah. And you look at it now, it's just not the same entity in the slightest.
You look at the stuff that they used to make, Monty Python's Flying Circus, they used to make the goodies, all huge hits, Malcolm and Wise, Two Ronnies, Keeping Up Appearances. I can go on. The list is strong. It's strong with... soap operas as well as comedy dramas, and when they used to do obviously historical stuff, you couldn't fault them. But now
I think you're right, mate. I mean, because again, when you talk about comedy, growing up, there was so much good comedy on the BBC. I mean, I was a kid. I don't. You guys are probably similar, but I grew up with the two Ronnies, and Fools and Horses, and all of that wonderful stuff, and more. And they don't make anything. I saw there was an advert on BBC Three the other day for a comedy, and I know I'm becoming an old git now, but I was like, but that's just not funny. But I think it's also they're scared to upset people now. I mean, someone did an article in the week. I don't know if you saw this, but they said, I watched Only Fools and Horses for the first time, and I thought it was racist and the usual anti blah 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 blah. And straight away I thought to myself, and I don't often swear, but I thought, you dickhead.
There was this sketch on not the 9 o'clock news. I think it was not the 9 o'clock news where this was it Sheik had to identify his wife that was dead, and he comes in and the policeman goes, "Is this your wife?" And he goes, "I don't recognize her." And then they put the cloth over half of her face. And he goes, "Oh, my wife, he's dead." You would never get away with that today. You would never get away with that today. That would be considered racist or something. Well, I don't know.
You do look at Fools and Horses.
If you laughed at that, then it's funny, right?
Yeah. I mean, clearly, we're very evil people, on this show tonight. We're just nasty pieces of work. But moving on to the next discussion, this is the biggie, everyone. We're going to talk about the Star Trek movies. So, what we're going to do is we're actually just going to talk about each one, and then we're just going to give each of us will give us our ranking, our order of what we think is the best down to the worst of Star Trek. Okay. Now, Ian, before we even start, I've probably already got in my head an idea of kind of where he is with that. Swappers, you as well, probably. But so first of all, let's talk about Star Trek, the motion picture. So what are your thoughts on that? Because again, we'll do the rankings in a bit, but I adore the motion picture. I really do enjoy it. I think it's a good Star Trek story. I like the whole V'Ger thing. It's just and it terrified me as a kid. The cloud with that guitar sound. I remember, I think I said to you before, Ian, but I went out when I was a kid on a cold day, and I stood outside in the garden while family were watching it, because I was terrified to watch the film, because it creeped me out with that cloud. Yeah, the cloud creeped me out as a little kid. So what are your guys' thoughts on motion picture?
I'll let Swappers go first.
Yeah,
I never saw it originally. I think I was too young really to appreciate it. But even though I did watch the original series on TV when it was shown in the 70s, but I had no idea that the motion picture was even a thing until I was about 7 or 8, because it came out. I can't remember what year it was released now. Does anyone know?
79.
79. Okay. 2 years after Star Wars then. So Star Wars just took over as far as I'm concerned. And I wasn't interested in anything else at that point. So when the motion picture was released, it kind of bypassed me totally. And I only saw it on TV when I was 10. When it was for the first time, I think it got shown on TV. And I thought, why have I never watched this? I don't understand why I've never sat down to watch it. But it was before people had video recorders and stuff, so you couldn't just go out and rent it. So we had to rely on the TV to show us these things. And I remember seeing, like years before, my mate brought a poster to school of Star Trek the motion picture and unraveled it. And it was the one with Kirk, Spock, and the girl's face. I can't remember her name now. With the kind of the spectrum light. Going up the poster, that one. And I remember looking at it going, oh, wow, look at that Star Trek. Why have I never watched that? I never thought any more about it. And I just went back at watching Star Wars again. And then when I saw it on TV, I just thought, wow, I can't believe I ever missed this. This is just fantastic. And I loved the whole thing about the whole cloud. You're right, John. It kind of creeped me out as well.
Yeah.
It was a really atmospheric film. And I loved the whole the fact that it wasn't sort of full of space combat, and it was kind of a breath of fresh air. It was something different. It wasn't Battlestar Galactica. It wasn't Star Wars. It was space exploration. It was a bit more thoughtful. It was discovery and sort of exploring the unknown and things. And
yeah,
and I was on the edge of my seat all the way through it. And there's people that say, "Oh no, it's really boring. Oh no, it's not Star Trek. Oh no, it doesn't do what Star Trek should do," and all this stuff. And I'm like, it does for me. It perfectly fulfills what Star Trek should be about for me. And it's a great cinematic interpretation of the original TV series, and a great upgrade into a cinematic version where everything's a lot more cinematic, everything's grander. There's high production values, the lighting and everything, the music. It did a great job as far as I'm concerned. I still really like it today. Yeah. I just can't believe people think that it's not part of the good order of the movies.
I know. I mean, before Ian comes in, I will say what I was saying about the cloud. What I think they did really well at the start of the film is you've got the Klingon battle cruisers attacking it, and they fire the photon torpedoes, and it just disappears into this chasm, and they look at each other. And what terrified me is when they do evasive to get away, but it just hits them, and you just see them all like incinerated inside the ship.
Yeah,
with the lightning effect, which was really cool. Yeah,
that's how they really established the power of this thing at that point. And that's when it set the stakes, didn't it, right at the start? And you think, wow, okay, how's the Enterprise crew going to deal with this thing? And it really kind of put you on edge. You were desperate to find out how it was going to play out from that point.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think, Ian? I hate it when he does that evil sort of Bond villain like laugh.
No, the earliest memory of Star Trek the Motion Picture was when I was in school, right? There was no such thing as jocks or geeks or anything like that. But I did have a bunch of friends that was into the same thing as me, 5 of us. Right, we would get excited about Spielberg films. You'd be reading Starburst or Starlog. We'd be in a dinner hall looking at Starlog and saying whatever. And the earliest memory I have of Star Trek, the motion picture, is reading in Starlog that John Dykstra and Doug Trumbull was doing the effects for Star Trek. And it blew our minds. We were in the dinner hall the whole of the lunch break. Couldn't believe that they got these 2 great special effects people to do Star Trek the motion picture. We spoke about it for ages. Like my friend Mosspan, he was like, "Oh my god, we've got to see this film. It's going to be out of this world. The effects are going to come out of the screen and all that." And we got really excited. And then when we went to see the film, we were really bored because we weren't old enough to appreciate what was shown us. Right at that moment in time, because I think it was Star Wars, and I think did Empire Strikes Back didn't come out when Star Trek came out, did it?
No, it was a few years later.
Yeah. So it was kind of disappointing to us. We just thought it was boring, and it did move at a snail's pace. So it wasn't for us at that moment in time. But years later, when I watched it again, I still think it's slow. And I still think it's funny as well. Some of the acting in there is truly awful, especially from William Shatner. It's really awful. But you can see it's well-meaning. It tried to be Star Trek. It didn't try to be Star Wars. It tried to be Star Trek. And only years later did I find out that Doug Trumbull was the one that persuaded the producers to do the flyby with the Enterprise. It wasn't even in the script, right? So Doug Trumbull loves 2001, and he was talking to the producer, and he said, "Please let me do this. I can do something like 2001 and show you the beauty of the Enterprise." And we're like, "How much is going to cost us?" And we're just going there. And then the was it Paramount or whoever was in charge gave them the green light, and they did it. And that's why when you see the Enterprise, it looks like it has a little scale on the saucer shape, because they knew they were going to get closer to it. So if you look at the one in the TV show, it's all flat, isn't it? It's like a big saucer, and there's no, you can't see the way it's constructed. And so they kind of painted those little squares on it. And also they knew that the camera was going to be going around the model, which was like a 6-foot model. So they put lights on the Enterprise. So it would light up the Enterprise. Do you know what I mean? So strategically they put lights so that it would light special places on the saucer and the side shot or whatever. And so when you look at that scene, it's all Doug Trumbull's idea, totally. Apart from that, I think the movie's okay. I think it was up its own arse a lot, the film. Sorry, mate, I just think that it was just okay, right? Because it could have been 10 times better, in my opinion. But it was suffered from a lot of politics when they were making it and all kinds of nonsense. And Robert Wise, he did a couple of sci-fis, but not something like this. And I didn't like the way Kirk was portrayed. He kind of fucked what's his name, Decker, didn't he? He really did. It's like that's not Kirk. Kirk would never do that. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And the ending was the special effects was amazing. But as I said, it wasn't for people of 10 to 11, 12 years old. It was for a lot higher Star Trek fans. But it's okay. I watch it now and I think it's okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
somebody agreed with me there. Who agreed with me?
Yeah, I know. I've actually screenshotted it for evidence, to be honest with you, forever. I think with the motion picture guys, I think you're right about Kirk, because Kirk in the motion picture, he is written as if, and McCoy tells him this, calls him out on it. It's basically like the Enterprise is his obsession. Yeah. All he wants is his command back. He doesn't care who he steps on, essentially, to get it.
Yeah.
But another interesting part of the film as well, I found as well, is Spock, because they don't 100% trust Spock throughout that film, because they don't know if Spock is doing his own personal reasons for coming on board or whether he is actually working in their interests. Because you see that scene as well where McCoy and Kirk are talking to him and they look at each other because some of the things Spock is saying. And again, you have that wonderful bit where, Decker says, "I'm curious why you're so reluctant to try, Mr. Spock." And that's when Kirk and McCoy look at each other going, yeah, he has got a point there. So there wasn't that trust with Spock like there was in the original series.
Well, I do believe, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, Swappers, that Spock had been away for a very long time. And so his humanity had kind of disappeared within that time he was on Vulcan. And then when he was erasing it,
wasn't he?
Yeah. So when he got back on the Enterprise, he was void of all kind of human aspects. Remember that bit when he comes on and they say, "Oh, really good to see you," and he just looks at them, like
blanks them and goes,
and just goes. So I'm saying, but towards the end of the movie, I think humanity was just coming back to Spock. So I understood what was going on with Spock. As I said, if I'm wrong, if you see it a different way, but
I think because you're right on that, because he was doing the Kolinar, ceremony on Vulcan, wasn't he, and purging the last elements of emotion. And you have that scene at the beginning, don't you, where he's about to do it and then something touches his mind from space, which is V'Ger, and he fails it. So there is definitely that. I think moving on to the second film as well, guys. Now, it's no secret. I'm just going to throw it out here. It's probably the same for everybody. This is my favorite Star Trek movie. Wrath of Khan.
Not so for me.
Ooh. But it's interesting. He's a crafty devil. But when we were just saying that about Spock, it's interesting when you see Spock in Wrath of Khan, because you have that interaction straight away at the beginning with Kirk and Spock. And he is humanized a lot more than he is in the motion picture.
Yes.
What are your guys' thoughts on?
Sorry, I'll let Swappers go. Sorry, go on, Swappers.
So just run over that question again, John.
Yeah. So again, what are your thoughts on Wrath of Khan, and your thoughts on the movie?
God, I'm trying to remember the age I was at. I think I was about I'm trying to put myself back into that frame of mind. I must have been around about 10-ish, 11-ish, something like that. And it was it was got taken to the cinema to see it. I think it's because my dad wanted to see it. So, because he was a fan of Trek back then. And I would just, there's no way I would have said no because it had spaceships in it. So, and Star Trek was like, yeah, I used to love, the original series. I'll go and watch that. And it was totally different to the original series because all the outfits had all changed. It was kind of a more of a submarine in space kind of feeling. The Enterprise felt different. The lighting was different. In the original series, everything was bright lights, wasn't it? And kind of 60s colors and stuff. Whereas this was much more militaristic and much more cinematic lighting, and it felt a lot more real. So immediately it was like almost stepping into a new world, seeing that movie for the first time. Because and the opening sequence where it was horrific, wasn't it? With on that planet where they capture is it Chekhov? And
yeah.
That whole sequence was like, we haven't even started yet, and what's going on?
That terrified me. Yeah.
And the effects were absolutely superb in it. I remember that. I'd been blown away by the effects. And I felt as if right from the outset I was watching something that was set apart from anything I'd seen before. It was, and everything. The space battles weren't rapid and kinetic, and for ADHD people, they were slow and thoughtful, like proper giant ships fighting each other. And it felt so much more real and dramatic. And every strike that the phasers had on another ship, you really felt it, and you're wincing with pain almost because you saw the damage it was having. And I just didn't get that in the reboot movies or in the TV shows. You just didn't really get that feeling of scale and realism, which is another thing I loved about it. But also loved the way the Enterprise looked. I know it's the same look as it had in the previous film, but it was just so much. It didn't look like a toy anymore in space like the original series. It looked like a genuine.
Different, wasn't it?
Yeah, huge. It had like kind of a bit of a refit, and the new nacelles and everything on it looked great, and everything just looked a lot more real. Yeah, it looked so much more real, including the Klingon ships and everything in it as well. And the whole battle between the Reliant and the Enterprise, my God, it's just stuck in my memory as being one of the greatest scenarios I've ever seen in any sci-fi movie, let alone Star Trek. And
phenomenal.
It wasn't even the bad guys against the Federation. It was like some guys that stolen a Federation ship, and it was two Federation ships fighting each other, which we haven't really seen before. But the stakes were so high in it. There was so much gravity to what was going on. You didn't know who was going to die. You really didn't know what the outcome was going to be, because we were seeing damage left, right, and the center, and people getting wounded, and you really felt as if the good guys could take a serious hit at any moment. I loved the leap that we had with that movie. It took, it was like a stride over what we'd had before, and it took us into a new era for Trek. I think just absolutely superb.
Swappers, what you said there, you make an interesting point about the fact about how the ships in the fight, how they're slow. And I saw Robert Mayer Burnett talking about this, and this was a big criticism for him with like Star Trek Strange New Worlds and stuff, because he said I'm paraphrasing, but he said in Strange New Worlds, you've got the flipping helm officer doing big barrel rolls in the Enterprise and stuff like that. And he said, well, no, these are capital ships. They turn like battleships. So you see that so well in this film, where they're coming head to head, and Kirk is like, he turns his chair brilliantly and he goes evasive, and you see how slow it's taken them to evade, to turn the Enterprise, and they're not getting out of the way in time. And I thought that just added to the stakes so much more. And I miss that kind of Star Trek, Yeah.
It was almost like watching a World War II kind of drama, or ships at battle on the sea, or in
impact.
And it added so much more gravity to it. I thought, if you wanted to have, starfighter combat, go and watch Buck Rogers or something. If you're having that with every ship, including the capital ships, then you're taking away from those kinds of battles when they do appear, and you're losing the realism of a giant ship, that maneuvering in space, because it would, even though space, you're weightless in space, you still have mass and velocity. So you need to have time to adjust. The bigger a ship is, it's going to take more time to rotate and have retro thrusters and things to maneuver. So they got it perfect as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Good.
I would also say it was, this is the first film in the production, though, in the movies where they moved it into the television studios, didn't they? The production, because the motion picture costs spiraled out of control. So was it Harve Bennett where they basically said to him, look, can you make, he goes, well, I can make these movies for X dollars. So they moved it into the TV production studios, and the rest was history. And again, you look at what they did on the budget, that they had, it's incredible. It really is.
Well, a lot of cheating.
There's
a lot of cheating in there, so that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, I like Star Trek too. It's one of my favorite Star Trek films of all times. I think it's absolutely brilliant personally, and it's really well done. And the story about Harve Bennett getting involved, Harve Bennett used to do $6 Million Man. He did a lot of TV shows. I think he was responsible for the Incredible Hulk as well on TV. And after they made Star Trek the motion picture, they were looking for a producer, and they came across Harve Bennett, and they said, do you want to make this? And Harve Bennett said yes. But Harve Bennett knew nothing about Star Trek. So what he did was he asked for every episode to be screened in a screening room, and he watched every episode of the 60s version of Star Trek, and something stood out to him. And what stood out to him was Star Trek was about the three of them. It was about Spock, McCoy, and Kirk. It was always about those three. Everybody else was everybody else, but that triangle was the thing that drove Star Trek. So basically, when he wrote the first draft, it was about those three and how they interacted, and it was very important. It's only when the director came in and moved everything and created the thing like that was like a submarine and everything like that. He was the one that had those ideas in the military uniforms and stuff like that. The first shot you see where Spock meets Kirk after the Kobayashi Maru test, the ceiling that you see is a false perspective shot. The ceiling is like way past them. It's like they have it on wires floating above the camera. So when you see the camera, it looks like there's a ceiling above them, but there wasn't no ceiling at all. That's how cheap it was, right? And they reused sets. What's that?
Yeah.
So that's what they did, right? That's what they did. But talking about the film, right? I thought the film was brilliant. There was not one bit in the film that I was bored of. Not one bit. The film moved really well. The pace was really well. Khan was evil, I thought, from the beginning.
Villain.
And he's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. The sequences are fantastic.
The thing is, though, you knew his motivation as well. He had a reason to be like that. He wasn't just written as a bad guy, and he wasn't written as a sympathetic bad guy. He had a good reason for being the way he was. So he made it so much more believable.
Yeah, because his wife died, didn't she? She died in. They put them in the wrong planet, basically, according to the TV show, isn't it?
Well, yeah, they put them on the right planet, but what happened was...
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
There was an explosion in the sun went supernova, I think, so it just decimated the planet. And of course, because they're superhumans, they were able to survive. Yeah. And that his wife got killed by one of those creatures, like the full-size ones. Yeah. But I think it's ballsy as well. What they did is they brought Khan back from an episode of the original series in the 60s. That was
Harve Bennett's ideas. That was Harve Bennett's
idea. I mean, again, if you flip it to now, guys, what we've been talking about with movies and shows today, they just wouldn't do that research. They wouldn't sit there and they wouldn't watch all the way through it and go, do you know what? We're going to bring that back and we're going to craft that properly.
Explains what we got.
Yeah,
because they didn't.
Exactly. I mean, we've talked before about Beyond, where they switched the scenes with Kirk and Spock, but with Wrath of Khan, and I've said this before, and it will come on in when I talk also about Search for Spock.
Mm.
Shatner gets a lot of bad press, but the acting that he does with Leonard Nimoy at the end of this film is first
Very
class.
subtle. Very subtle.
And also when he does it in the next film as well, where he falls back onto his chair, you know, it's superb acting. And again, we were invested in that character. We were invested in those characters, you know. But when you watch the director's cut of Wrath of Khan, you're talking about the stakes, what Swappers was saying about the stakes in the film. The director's cut, you see Scotty's nephew die in it.
Yeah.
You know, because he's crying when they put the sheet over his head, don't they? You know, the order is given, Kirk says to him. So
there's
really
some
good.
facts. There's some facts in this film. I don't know if you know Swappers. So the base that they fly to find Carol Marcus, that is the same model that they used in Star Trek the Motion Picture, but they turned it upside down. So it looks different, yes. And also the Reliant, right? They made a mistake with the Reliant. They thought that they had the paper upside down, so they thought that the what do you call those things?
Nacelles, yeah,
Nacelles was at the bottom, but really the artist wanted it at the top, just like the Enterprise. But they didn't realize that the picture was upside down, so they made it that way. So there's two mistakes there, which is interesting when you think about it. And they were trying to save money. Obviously, they fixed, because the Enterprise got damaged from the first movie, and they got it back and they fixed it all up. And same thing with the model turning it upside down, so you wouldn't recognize it from the first movie. So there you go. So there's a lot, and also, as you mentioned, Swappers, the fight in the Mutara Nebula, that gave James Horner the chance to create some bombastic music. That went with it. It was so good. It was so good, man.
You know,
I'll tell you what, guys, I really miss in modern day filmmaking for the last God knows how many years, 20, 30 years plus. I really miss that movie magic of how you used to look at the screen and think, how did they do that? Because now it's just like, it's just CG. You know, and it's part of the wonder, wasn't it, of watching a movie and thinking, especially like Wrath of Khan and those Trek movies, you were blown away by the effects because you knew that it couldn't be possible to do that in any other way, but some method that you didn't know. That's like a magic trick. You know, it loses all the magic once you know how it's being done. But for the entire time you're mystified, you're just captured and just utterly enthralled by what's going on.
Yeah,
also, I agree. Yeah, 100%.
Also, that scene when Dr. McCoy comes to visit Spock and it's his birthday and he's not happy. That's a great scene. I wasn't bored with any of that, you know. When they were talking about all you're interested in is that bloody ship. Do you know what I mean? That's why you're not celebrating your birthday. And you can't have was it Redlax 5 where it was in your eyes?
You can't have it.
That's why you got to have glasses and all that stuff. Because Harv Bennett was saying to William Shatner, he was saying, look, you know, Kirk is a lot older. William Shatner didn't like it. And then Harv Bennett pointed out films in the 50s with Spencer Tracy and, you know, all the old that actually sunk into their age. You know what I mean? And then that's when William Shatner accepted it. And that's why you have that stuff in the script about the glasses and we're old and maybe we're redundant and all that stuff. But they weren't redundant. They made 3 other films after that. So
it was wonderful. It was wonderful because that is very good. You know, where throughout that whole movie, you've got like you say, you've got Kirk basically feeling like he's old and he's past it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when Spock's dead and they're looking out on the bridge, and he just says to them, he says, "I feel young."
Yeah.
You know, like he feels rejuvenated and ready to go again. And again. What I love about Wrath of Khan as well, and again, you don't get this now, but I love the fact that Kirk was just so cool. You know, the bit where he's, you know, they're in the Genesis chamber, you know, and he's eating the apple, and he just gets up and he flicks it and he goes, "Spock, it's 1 hour. You ready?"
Yeah.
You know, and McCoy smirks because he thought, I should have known this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And he just, I don't like to lose. and it's fantastic. You know, you don't get that anymore. Now it would be like, you know, you don't know what you're talking about, and they'd have one of the women telling him how it's to be. It's like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. We'll fix it. We'll sort it. But it just Shatner is Kirk, and it's just wonderful.
Well, he does lose his cool at one point, doesn't he? When he goes, God,
iconic.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, right? They were supported by some really good actors. You know, I can't remember the guy that was in Terminator. He's the black guy. I can't remember his name. He's guy. He's really good. Good actor.
Captain Terrell, I think. He's
Terrell,
called,
that's it. Yeah. And Chekhov, guy who plays Chekhov, he knew the script was wrong, but he didn't tell anyone because he wanted a bigger part in the film, and he got it. Do you know what I mean? Because like Chekhov never met Khan. But the thing is, though, you could argue that he was the one that was in the ship that drove him down to that planet. Him and his you know, he could have been. You know what I mean? So there you go.
Well, he always jokes, actually. He always says about when he's asked, he goes, you know, where Khan says, "I never forget a face, Mr. Chekhov." He says, he found me on the toilet. So when he goes to cons, he always brings that one up. But I mean, we move on to the next one, which is Search for Spock. What are your guys' thoughts on Search for Spock as a movie in the franchise?
I think it's Ian's favourite. Go on, Ian.
It is my favourite. Out of every Star Trek movie that has been, Star Trek 3 is the best, in my opinion. Better than Wrath of Khan, better than Undiscovered Country. And I'll tell you the reason why. The reason why is because it went into the territory that no other Star Trek film went in. They destroyed the Enterprise. They killed Kirk's son. They literally went there with that film, and I am grateful because I had so much enjoyment watching that film. It's brilliantly directed by Leonard Nimoy. Kirk was, you know, he was magnificent, wasn't he? Especially when he was on the planet, and you know, he was trying to.
I've had enough of you.
Yeah. It's all, the whole thing is terrific. I mean, that bit where they're in the line. And he says, kill one of them. You know, you're at the edge of your seat. And I hear that when he does fall off his seat, that was an accident, but he just carried on acting. So, and I love when they stole the Enterprise. Oh my God, what a freaking brilliant scene.
Superb.
You've got to admit, anyone in the chat, you've got to admit, that scene is better than any scene in any Star Trek movie because it was so well done. And the effects were really good as well. It's just a fantastically well thought out scene. It really was, from the bit where they rescued McCoy, and the lines in it as well. Great. Are you just going to walk through them? Calm yourself, Doctor. Do you know what I mean? It's such great lines, you know. And now, Mr. Scott, he's done. The doors, Mr. Scott. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. My enjoyment level went past 10 when I was in the cinema watching that. I was loving every second of it. Even the ending almost made me cry when he goes, "Jim, your name is Jim." I almost lost it. So that's the reason why I think it's one of the best.
The iconic quote is, you know, obviously where you see the burning Enterprise when they're on Genesis, and what is it he says? He goes, "My God, Bones, what have I done? What you always do, what you had to do, turn death into a fighting chance to live." And it's just like, even as a kid, even now I get goosebumps when he says that. But as a kid, I was like, come on, let's go. You know, Kirk's going to find a way out of it. And the Klingon fight, you know, Christopher Lloyd is a fantastic Klingon in it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It is a fantastic film, and I don't care what anyone says. I remember this argument that people were saying, "Oh, you know, in a trilogy, number 3 is always the one that's number 3 is always the one that's bad." Oh, fuck you! Do you know what I mean? This one was absolutely brilliant. I don't care what.
I don't know why anyone would say that. I really don't. No. Well, the only downside I saw to that movie was not having Kirstie Alley in it again.
Yeah, well, that wasn't their fault.
No,
was it? No, it wasn't their fault at all. But,
I mean, again, you're right, guys, on this film. I don't know why people criticize it, because it's a fantastic movie in the Genesis trilogy. It just, it leads straight into the next movie. It's done really well. The stakes are high in it. There's some great comedy moments as well. I think the unsung hero in it is DeForest Kelly as Bones as well, where he's playing Spock and McCoy in the same body, in the same mind. Brilliantly done. And he's like, how can you be deaf with ears like that? You know, just classic McCoy. Genius stuff.
I love the scene where the father comes in and says, you know, what was left of Spock is gone, and he does the mind meld on Kirk, and you see the shots of the eyes and stuff. It's really well directed by Leonard Nimoy. It's just ridiculously good what he did with that film, and again, it shows that when people care about an IP, you will get great results. And Leonard Nimoy cared about what was being put on the screen, and he also didn't fuck around with the lore of Star Trek either. He basically took the lore and just followed it, but made it really enjoyable. Again, it's got humor, it's got excitement, it's got edge of your seat stuff, and it's got a great conclusion. What more could you want from the movie? You know?
When you're watching it back again, though, it's like what someone said in the chat. I think it was Boomer Doug. Just reminded me. I think the last time I saw it, I expected Christopher Lloyd's character to be sitting there and like to shift to the front of his seat and look at the view screen and go, "Great Scott!"
Or holding a dead targ.
No, I thought he was brilliant. Remember the bit in the beginning where he just lets his girlfriend get killed. Do you know what I mean? For the honor of the Klingons.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
you will be remembered with honor.
Yeah. It's like, what? You know what I mean? Such a great scene as well, you know?
Well, what I like as well about, you know, when you talk about wonderful quotes, I love it when Kirk beams himself up to the Klingon bird of prey.
Yeah.
And then he goes, don't. He holds the gun at him, he's holding Spock. And he goes, wait, I
thought you said you'd
later. You promised you'd kill me. He goes, I lied. It's just great.
It's a great scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think with this film as well, you know, I always laugh because at the beginning, you know, Sarek, Spock's dad, is basically telling him, you need to fix this. And I always chuckle at the end when he lands and he's kind of like, but at what cost? Your ship, your son.
Yeah.
And it's like, hang on a minute. Earlier in the film, you wanted me to
No, he didn't say that. No, John, he didn't say that. What he was saying was,
he was manipulating
what he believed was that everything that Spock was gone because of his Katra, because he didn't transfer his Katra to something else. And that's what he believed, that Spock was completely gone. And then when he left Kirk, he didn't leave Kirk. He realized that they find it was in McCoy. So yes, he sacrificed. But Spock, Kirk actually says, if he didn't do it, it'd be his soul. Do you know what I mean? He had to do it. Yeah. You know, with the costs, you know, he had to do it. So
it's a good transition from the first one, mate. Sorry, because what you're saying there. Yeah, I get that, because we talked about in Search for Spock, we talked about in the motion picture that all Kirk cared about was getting his command back. This film is all about, he cares more about his friends, his family, than he does his command. So there's that change in the character and the writing of that character, you know, in the third movie, which is really well done. But
you know, right. So this is a question for, well, it's not a question, but I'm saying this to swappers. So Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Everybody agrees that Empire Strikes Back was the key to the Star Wars saga. First one was great. I believe the second one was better than the first one. With Star Trek, they had two Empire Strikes Back. They had Wrath of Khan and The Search for Spock. Some could argue that they're the same film. Do you know what I mean? If you put them back to back, it's the story that continues, that it's the same story.
Yeah.
But as I said, that's why the third one is so great, because it's the conclusion to Wrath of Khan, as far as I'm concerned, right? And that's why I say that film is the best Star Trek film ever made.
Well,
I rest my case.
Yeah. What do you think, Swappers?
It's hard to argue it, really. Most people say Wrath of Khan because I think it did so many new things with the IP, style-wise, storytelling-wise, drama-wise, combat-wise. It had all those elements to it, and that's why people tend to remember that one a lot more. But I think 3 unfairly does get a little bit of it is in its shadow, and it shouldn't be at all because it is equally as great a movie. The stakes are there as well, exactly the same as a previous film. If you watch that as a double bill, what an absolute treat that would be. Just a great experience with watching those 2 films. And you could also say The Voyage Home as well, which is an awesome end piece to that trilogy. Even though it's kind of, it does get a little bit cheesy in places and a little bit kind of, you look at it and go, that wouldn't really happen. But it's still brilliantly done. But those two movies, sadly, the Enterprise isn't really in that film. But as far as those 2 movies go, they are pure Star Trek. And I think they should always be held as the benchmark of what to try and achieve if you're going to play in that universe with those tools and those game pieces and arrange it into a great story and a great product. Just look at how they did it. Look at that formula, and you can't go far wrong.
It is. You're absolutely right. They didn't try to change the format of Star Trek. They kept to what Star Trek was, and they moved forward with different stories within that construct of what Star Trek was. Unlike the JJ version, who tried to make it into Star Wars. Yeah. So that's the thing. So I agree.
Yeah, I mean, moving on to sort of Voyage Home, guys, and Swappers, what you were just saying there, it's a good conclusion to the trilogy because, what I like about these films as well, they also are trusting the audience. There's not, you hear a lot now about, if we do that, they won't know anything about it, so we can't have a trilogy like this. These days they would make an excuse for it, but back then they trusted the audience that they'd seen Wrath of Khan, they'd seen Search for Spock, and then they were watching The Voyage Home, and it was a good conclusion. And at the end of it, you have they have to deal with the consequences of it. If they hadn't have saved Earth, they'd be in a blooming stockade somewhere now. they would be in prison. They wouldn't have a command.
It was a little bit of a retread of the first motion picture with the alien force coming from space to Earth, that kind of thing. But it was a good twist on it, I thought, and involving time travel was totally fresh as far as I'm concerned. That hadn't been dealt with in the movies. We had it like once or twice in the TV show, but this was totally new with that kind of budget as well. Made it completely feel totally fresh. The only thing I didn't like in hindsight, and maybe I need to watch it again, and my doubts and fears will be allayed, but looking at it after seeing it, after not watching it for like a good couple of decades, I'd struggle to remember a reason why any ship wouldn't just decide, let's go back in time. They'll slingshot around the sun and go and change history and destroy the Federation or whatever.
Can I answer that question?
Please.
You're dying to.
Because every ship that was in that vicinity, the power disappeared because of that thing, and that's why they couldn't do it. And Kirk's ship was the only one out of range of that power that was draining everything. So they're the only ones that could save Earth, basically.
Okay, in that moment, agreed. What my argument was, what's stopping any ship during any scenario at any time slingshotting around the sun and going back in time and changing the past?
Well, the reason why is because Kirk and Spock and McCoy are the heroes. This film would have been strange if some ship that we didn't know and people that we didn't know saved the Earth instead of them. So that's what happens, really.
You got, you know, you can just imagine now. There's like a fleet of Federation ships just orbiting the sun, just to wipe out an enemy ship, just in case it gets too close for slingshot.
Wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, guys, did you think it was strange when they did that slingshot around the sun, and you had all those faces coming out of the thing, and it just was weird, wasn't it? Don't you think?
It was weird.
It went a bit sort of 2001 at that point. Yeah, it went a bit sort of Space Odyssey, didn't it?
Yeah, it did a bit. Yeah, I thought it was a bit weird, but I mean, the thing I don't like about this film, when I first saw it, I just didn't like it at all. I thought after the seriousness of 3 and 2, why did they go here? But after the years have gone by, I do really find it to be funny and very entertaining. The only thing that spoils it for me now as an adult is the music. The music is awful in that film. It's so bad. I just feel like switching it off sometimes when I hear that crappy music playing in the background. It's just awful. But yeah, sorry, I digress.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, and as Boomer Doug says, you know, Eddie Murphy was meant to be in this movie, and I think from memory, I think he was going to be some sort of. They wanted him to be someone like in San Francisco in present day.
He was, like, he was meant to be. He was meant to be the girl's part as a.
Yeah.
But the point is that when he was offered the part, he was really happy, and he thought he was going to be an Enterprise and stuff like that, and they didn't. They wanted him to be the comic relief, and basically turned it down because it was like, that's not what I want. So yeah, it went through a couple of transitions, the script, and then they got Catherine Hicks in to play that part.
Yeah.
The thing I like about Catherine Hicks is that she was billed as the love interest for Kirk, and then she fucked off at the ending, didn't she? She was like,
she did.
I'm in the future now. Bye. Poor old Kirk.
So see you around the galaxy. You know.
I like that story arc for her though, where she, you know, you didn't necessarily expect her to go into the future with them, which I thought was, oh wow, yeah, you know, I'd do that. That'd be amazing. So she got a really kind of great resolution to her story, even though it didn't carry on with the two of them. I thought she had a great sort of when you see her as she's part of the future like Marine expedition team or whatever it is, the division of Starfleet. I love that bit. I really did.
But she actually says in the film, "I have no one here," doesn't she? She goes, "I've got no one. You know, I'd rather go with you." Do you know what I mean? So, yeah,
it's down. I do like the ending as well. There's also two other bits I like about the ending of Voyage Home is when you've got the trial going on in their absence, and they've got the black box. You know, and you've got Sarek arguing with the Klingon ambassador because, you know, what is it? He says, does this give you the right to commit murder? You know, and they have that interaction. And then it sets it up for later on. You know, it says, there will be no peace while Kirk lives. You know, and the ambassador walks off. That's well done. And then you have the bit at the end, which is really nice. You have the conversation between Spock and Sarek, where he's finally got to that throughout all the series, you know, the original series, and he's got to that point where he's actually proud of his son and he's saying it the best he can. Yeah, you know, it's really well done.
A lot of people don't realize that it's a journey for Spock as well. So when we saw Spock in the motion picture, he was void of all human characteristics until towards the ending where he just had a bit, and then in Wrath of Khan he was Spock totally, right? And then he dies, and then he had to go through that again, didn't he, when he got resurrected, because he had to get in touch with his feelings, because remember he was in that machine and his mum said, you know, there's that question, how do you feel? And he didn't understand the question, and his mum had to explain it to him. Do you know what I mean? So Spock goes through a journey. He goes through a journey, and it does come to a good conclusion towards the ending of Star Trek Voyage Home. So yeah. So again, a lot of people just don't see that; they just see the Star Trek film.
Yeah. I think I agree with you, because like what you're talking about, that bit at the beginning where he's doing the test, isn't he, on the computer, and he's passing everything. It's like, how do you feel? And he doesn't understand the question and speaks to his mum. And then right at the end, he then says, and tell mother I feel fine.
fine, yeah.
And like Sarek's like, what? You know, but he's passed the test. So
but his mum's human and his dad's Vulcan, so his mum understands more about emotions than his father. So yeah.
Yeah, and then the next movie is Star Trek V: The Final Frontier.
I think Swappers has got something wrong with his mic. So
he'll be back.
He'll be back in it. But
I think for this one, I think for this one, for me, it's similar to kind of what Boomer Doug said earlier in the chat. It's kind of like my secret joy. It's not my favorite, but there are elements of it that I like. But I do like the three of them camping together, and what was it? You know, out in the out in the wild. I like all of that. You know, I do like as well. I want to say, was it Shatner who said it? Where at the end, it's almost like you don't know whether it's a dream or not. He wanted it. I think he originally wanted it to be like you get to the end of the film and you've got the campfire and they're singing. You don't know whether that was a dream or it actually happened, which is different and ballsy, I have to say. But it just the production and the money that was blown on it. I mean, the famous bit is the rock creature, isn't it? Where he wanted like, what was it? He wanted like something like 50 rock creatures or something, but there was something like, what was it? $100,000 a piece.
Yeah.
So he could only have one, and they scrapped it.
Well, the reason why it didn't work was because William Shatner had a good idea, but his execution wasn't very good. I mean, the idea of he was just thinking, where can I put action in this really good story, rather than the story being organic and flowing into certain things like Search for Spock or even Wrath of Khan, or even the first one, Motion Picture. He was trying to throw things in there, you know, like a Catwoman that had 3 boobs, or do you know what I mean? Stuff like that, which he thought he'd just chuck in there, a little bit of kung fu in there, you know, to talk to the audience, you know, that kind of thing. And that is the wrong way to approach writing the story. And also the humor was too broad in the film. And you could see that things were being forced, you know, like the row, row, row your boat. It didn't feel natural. It felt like it was being forced. Everything in that film felt like it was being forced to a point where it became a bit silly. It's not my favorite. I do enjoy bits of it. I like the bit where Sarak, is it Sarak or what's his name? Spock's brother. It's like, what? Cybok.
Yeah.
Was saying things like, you know, get rid of your pain from the past. And Kirk was like, no, the pain from the past is what makes me who I am. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like all that stuff.
That's good.
I just thought the ending was a huge letdown. The whole film was a letdown, tell you the truth. But the ending, most of all, when they meet so-called God, and it was like a man with a white beard, you knew that wasn't God, obviously. But
no.
Some famous lines in there, like "What does God want of a starship?" and all that stuff. So
it's phenomenal. Yeah, I mean,
it had a lot of potential there, didn't it? It had the scope of that, the idea behind that movie.
Yeah,
I think it might have been Bill Shatner's. Was great. You know, like a being that could be actually God, and they're going to meet this, like, you know, the biggest subject you could possibly put into a sci-fi show or Star Trek. But, you know, it wasn't executed as well as it could have been. But I think it's pretty obvious by the end of the movie that it was just like a being that was being confused as an all-knowing entity.
What was needed? Sorry, just one before you carried on. What was needed was somebody else to write the screenplay, and somebody. So William Shatner had the idea, which is a good idea. He should have just said, "Right, guys, take it and write, you know, something." And but he didn't.
I'm surprised.
He got involved too much in the writing.
I'm surprised because Shatner is actually a very, very good writer, and he's written some good books.
For novels,
I just think, for novels, I mean, again, I defer to you on screenplays and stuff like that. But he was very good at it. I think you're right. It needed to be fleshed out, because I remember him talking about it, you know, on the extras, and he said, Well, my idea was always, what if they go looking for God and they end up finding the devil instead, which makes them think, well, hang on a minute, if there's a devil, then there's a God. So he was thinking along those lines, which is, you know, would be a great Star Trek story. It just wasn't what we got. But there's some wonderful scenes. McCoy is great again, where he's looking up at him and he's going, where he's climbing, he's going, my God, making deals with, you know, playing games with God and all of that. You know, Leonard DeForest Kelly is fantastic. The practical effects are terrible in this. Well, you know, the effects of the ships and everything, because they ran out of time, didn't they? I think, Ian, is that right?
No, it's not. It's not.
They didn't finish them rightly.
No, it's not that. It's they wanted Industrial Light and Magic to do it, but Industrial Light and Magic was contracted to do another film, so they went to this company, and the company said they could do it, but it was obvious they couldn't by the results they were giving them. It was terrible. So they ended up using a lot of footage from the other movies to compensate for that film. The best thing about that film is Jerry Goldsmith's score. It's unbelievably great. But the film didn't work as far as I was concerned. I don't know what you think, Swappers.
I was because I was a big fan of the 2001, 2010 Odyssey movies. And I thought this has got the potential to be kind of along those lines. So I thought, I'm up for this completely. This could be great in a Star Trek scenario. But it wasn't, like you said, it felt unfinished and it was not fleshed out enough. Like they had a great idea and they couldn't quite encapsulate everything they needed to put into it. And they just had to end it, but because it would just keep going otherwise, and they couldn't finish it off. So it didn't really feel like it rounded out the way it should have. And I had probably had better hopes and ideas for it than what I ended up seeing on screen, which is never good, really, is it? But it's like what Doomcock said a few years ago when he was talking about Star Trek V, is that when you watch it and you regard it as like a dream of one of the characters, or even all three of the characters, when they're having that campfire together and when they're out camping and they fall asleep, and it's like the dream of, say, Kurt or Bones or something. And when you look at it in that respect and you go back and rewatch it, and you can see, because it's kind of his dream would have been influenced by their talks and what they did before that, and the whole, and the inclusion of the song "Row Your Boat," when it says "life is but a dream," and it kind of alludes to the scenario that they're in. It could be just a dream, or some kind of ET influence affecting their minds and putting them in this scenario that never really happened, but it's using their minds to kind of flesh out a scenario that could have occurred at one point. But I like there was an episode of Next Gen in the later series that gave a nod to the entity that's in this movie that's at the center of the galaxy, where I think it's Barclay's character gets affected by some kind of, I can't remember what
probe.
It kind of expands his brain, and he has to end up linking himself up to the holodeck to project his thoughts, because he's got too many. His brain's working too fast.
Good episode. Yeah,
and the ship ends up getting taken to the center of the galaxy, and I thought, oh wow, I wonder if this is the same group of beings, because it shows itself. One of the emissary or envoy is like a giant holographic head on the bridge of the Enterprise, sort of speaking to them, and it looks very similar to the one that's at the end of Star Trek V. So I'm thinking maybe the one that's in Star Trek V is kind of like a rogue one of these beings, or is like an outcast or something. And I thought that fits quite well if you think of it like that.
It does. It fits brilliantly. I will say, guys, I'm going to talk about the two elephants in the room now. Older horror naked dancing.
That is.
I was going to say that. I was going to say,
ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Baffles me. I don't know why they did that. I really don't.
That's because that's the thing. You see, look, right. There's a couple of things that bother me when I think about it. Is that three men hanging out with each other? I never thought Spock would hang out with Kirk. I mean, yes, maybe go for a drink with him and stuff, and they're really good friends and stuff. But hanging out because they're lonely and they don't have anyone, which kind of really made me think how sad they are. Do you know what I mean? When I was watching that film, I thought, whatever. And it's, you rolling your eyes when they're singing "Row, Row, Row Your Boat," especially when I saw it in the cinema. I was like, oh, what the fuck is this? Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. For me, the film didn't work. he was. I mean, at the time, I think Karate Kid 2 came out, and they had a bit of karate in there. You know, he approached this film the wrong way. Instead of being pure Star Trek, he was trying to shove things in there that was popular at the time, and that's what he was doing. Star Wars, he copied the Cantina bar in Star Wars, more or less, in that film. And what a daft story with all those bureaucrats got involved, you know, and it's like, huh? Do you know what I mean? It just, I think the best idea in that is the Vulcan that had emotions. I thought that was a great idea. Great idea. But anyway, I think it fails on so many levels.
I will also say, guys, this is also the film where Will Wheaton has said that Shatner took the piss out of him on set because they were filming Next Generation season 1, and Will Wheaton go, I want to meet Shatner. I want to meet Shatner. So he came onto the bridge where they were filming it, and apparently Will Wheaton says that Shatner made him cry because basically Shatner took the piss out of his outfit. So I could see that happening, and I thought, yeah, that's great. That's Shatner to a T. That is.
So Cyborg was meant to be played by Sean Connery, and Sean Connery decided to do Last Crusade, and so they were stuck. So they got this other guy to do it, and so I know Sean Connery. There was a planet named after him in the film, wasn't it? Shakari, Sean Connery, whoever it is. So yeah. So again, right? I think if William Shatner just left the idea to somebody else and just ended up directing, I think it would have been all right. But you can see his influence in there. You can see the influence, which is it's like a 15-year-old. I don't know, a 12-year-old writing a sci-fi. That's what it felt like to me. He was the wrong person to write that screenplay. It's all about ego at the end of the day, because everybody knows William Shatner has a huge ego, and even though he was really nice to everybody when he was directing, because all of them say he was really good at directing, he still had the ego about the screenplay and stuff like that. He should have just left that alone. Maybe just got Leonard Nimoy to focus it even more, because he was good at that, and just let them, I don't know.
Before we move on to Undiscovered Country, I just want to have do a shout out and to Mr. Brown Alliance. I've just seen, actually, you put a post out for the channel and the show earlier, so I just want to say a big thanks for doing that. And if anyone hasn't, make sure you like and subscribe to Mr. Brown Alliance, his channel. It's on a Sunday night, and it's is it a Wednesday night as well, guys? It's Wednesday night, isn't it?
Wednesday and Sunday, yeah.
And they do good stuff. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to that and certainly check it out, because they're doing good stuff. So yeah, thank you, Ian. I really appreciate it. So Undiscovered Country. Well, Swappers, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, yeah, it's one of the better ones, isn't it? It's not my favorite though. I mean, I remember at the time this film had like fans and critics alike, all giving it plaudits, and I watched it and I just thought, yeah, it was really good, but it didn't really feel as if it had the same sense of adventure and sense of danger and wow factor that 2 and 3 had. It felt a lot more bureaucratic and a bit more about sort of Starfleet and ethics and things like that, rather than peril as much, because we were just facing Klingons who we've dealt with before. There wasn't really this kind of unknowable enemy that we had to try and fathom out, and there wasn't any mystery to what's going on. It was kind of just the alliance between humans and Klingons that was being tested, and the Klingons were the villain again, and it was a bit of a retread. As much as having said all that, it was really still a really good film. But I just feel as if I would have preferred a much grander threat to the Federation and Starfleet.
Yeah, they were trying to comply to what happened in the Next Gen with the
Alliance.
The Alliance. I personally thought it was one of the best as well. I thought it was a great film. It took it in another direction. It was detective, wasn't it? It was detective stuff. That's what it was. You had Spock trying to figure out what was going on, and he even quotes that Sherlock Holmes quote in there. So it was like dovetail between Kirk and McCoy and Spock and the Enterprise. And they both dovetailed really well, in my opinion. They both worked really well. I love the sequence when the two guys come in and they shoot everybody on the bird of prey, and you have that floating blood. But they couldn't have it red because then the certificate would go up, so they had it pink, didn't they? So we know now Klingons have got pink blood.
Pepto-Bismol.
Pepto-Bismol. That's what it was. But I thought it was a quite good film. I like the sequence. I love the sequence where Spock is trying to work things out, and who fired the missile, and they're all used very, very well. And
Kim
also,
Cattrall's great in it.
Yeah, didn't they not make a mistake with Lieutenant Uhura? Doesn't Lieutenant Uhura know Klingon in the show, in the TV show?
No.
And then she doesn't in the film.
No, I don't think she does in the original series. I think
Okay.
in the JJ movies, she speaks it, doesn't she, when she goes on that planet? But I don't count that. I mean, I was going to say, for me, I really like this one. I like the fact that Nicholas Meyer came back to this as well.
Yes.
And
that beginning was really good, John. The beginning sequence with the cup of tea
exploding.
Yeah. And I just when I saw that, I don't know about you, Swappers, and I don't know about you, John. When I saw Sulu in charge of the Excelsior, I was like, TV show. Please give us a TV show.
Would have been great.
Give us a TV show with Sulu and the Excelsior, and that would be amazing. Just like give us a TV show with Paul McGann as the Doctor, please. That would be amazing. But as history told us, that what we want is not what we ever get. So you go.
The closest we got to it, they did the Sulu novels, didn't they? And then also we had that Star Trek Voyager episode, didn't we? Where they, Tuvok is actually on the Excelsior as a crewman, isn't he?
Yeah.
And that was nicely done. But I agree with you. I mean, that could have been so good. They should have really, but again, I suppose it was different production teams at that point, wasn't it? Because you had Harve Bennett. Harve Bennett was involved. This was the last one he was involved in, wasn't he? But then you had the TV lot that were running, and they were going to do Generations. Was going to be the next one. But there's so many good moments of this. I mean, you've got the whole Kirk at the beginning. There's the conclusion with his hatred of Klingons because of what's happened to David. He's just let them die. He's having to go at Spock for pulling him into it.
You see that, John, right? You see that. That's the reason why number 5 didn't work, because it didn't connect to anything that gone in the past. With Undiscovered Country, it followed the idea about Kirk being biased because of his son, right? And it's connected to that film. It's not all of a sudden he's a different person in 5. And it just 5 seems to me, 5 needs to be chucked away. And it's just those films. In fact, right, Swappers and John, me and Keith, we went to see a marathon night of the Star Trek films.
Oh, that's cool.
They didn't include the first one. It was 2, 3, and 4 and 6. So we started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and then finished at 4 in the morning. It was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it was fantastic. We had breaks in between. And
I was going to say, I hope you did.
And, they gave us free popcorn and everything. It was absolutely fantastic. It was fantastic. Yeah. So I think they deliberately didn't include the first one or the 5th one. So
I wouldn't have minded the first one being included as well, but it would have bumped the viewing time to like ridiculous levels. But the thing about 5 is that you don't really have to include it, do you, in the sequence at all? You can kind of just put it out to one side. You're not missing anything, and there's no continuity lost whatsoever.
No,
that's right.
No, I'm okay with 5 just being there, and I'll watch it. But like you say, the rest of it, it just
some great
it's
lines, right?
joy.
Fly her apart. Then what's that other line? Shall we report this, sir? Are you kidding? It's brilliant line.
Yeah,
absolutely
and
brilliant.
Christian Slater cameo.
Oh, fantastic!
He was big at the time, wasn't he? You know, massive.
Apparently, he was a huge fan, and he wanted a cameo in it. So
he did, yeah, he did. Yeah, he wanted.
But this is the argument when I talk about what I call proper Star Trek compared to what I call the low grade charity shop Star Trek that we've had the last few years, is the fact that that scene with Sulu on the Excelsior. Now we've already established how much bigger that ship is compared to the Enterprise, right? And you see Christian Slater in the doorway, and you see Sulu's quarters, and they're small quarters.
Yeah.
Whereas you see it Star Trek Strange New Worlds under Kurtzman, it's a flipping penthouse studio apartment. You know, it loses all common sense. In Strange
New
Worlds,
why, don't you? Don't you? Because they were using the TV sets. They were saving money, and they were using the TNG TV sets. Yeah. So that's why it's like that. So.
But even so, it makes sense, because when you go back to Wrath of Khan, and like Swappers was saying earlier, it feels like a submarine movie. These are, you look at submarines. Submarines have tight quarters, you know, and you can see that with this sort of ship. It was only when you went to Next Generation, that kind of went more to the sort of luxury liner kind of thing.
But are you right though? See, this is the question. In the third Star Trek movie, when you had the person that was in charge of the Excelsior, his bedroom was huge. Remember, he's sitting there doing his nails, and he gets
I don't think it was.
It was, because that bed was huge.
I think it was still quite small, because he goes,
no, take a look again.
He goes, I'm on my way.
Yeah, and it's a huge bed. What's his name? Sulu's
Wait here, everyone. I'm going to watch. Wait here, everyone. I'm going to watch Star Trek 3. I'll be back.
Sulu's bed was a bunk, wasn't it? It looked like some bunk bed or something like that. But in Star Trek 3, that guy had a huge red bed, and he was like doing his fingernails, and then he pushes the button. And it's like,
I've got to check that out. So. Yeah, I've got to check that out now, you know, because, you know, you've thrown down the gauntlet, mate. You've thrown down the gauntlet on me.
One of my favourite things about the series of movies was the Excelsior on its own. When I saw that ship for the first time, I just went, wow. And ever since that point, that's been my favourite out of all of the ships in Star Trek, ever since then. And I've just loved... I mean, they tried to make it out to be like the super advanced new sort of ship that's going to supersede the Enterprise and all the other previous ones, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, then it failed because they sabotaged it and whatever. But and you look at it now, when you go back and sort of see all the consoles and things, you think that they look fairly dated, let's be honest. But it's still absolutely beautifully sculpted ship. And I would have loved to have seen a Sulu show or any show with an Excelsior class ship as the main ship in it. I would have lapped that up. They just kept it going. Just kept the series going with a new cast, new adventures in the same time frame. You don't have to have, you know, the Enterprise crew. You can do this with new people, but keep it in that. I would have loved for them to have carried on the same time era of Star Trek instead of going into the next gen. Next gen ended up being really great, but I would have loved that continuation, because the aesthetic that they established with 2, 3, 4. And 6 with the the submarine type ships, and that everything was kind of very metal and bolted together, and I love that look, and the kind of the dark lit bridge and the sets and things like that. It made it feel so much more real, and I was into Alien and Aliens as well at that time. And I loved the military aesthetic of the Sulaco, and the way everything was a lot more real world, you know, very much more grounded. And when you went into the next gen era, everything sort of seemed to be a bit too futuristic, when it was all replicated. And their suits were just like sort of one-piece spandex, and it just didn't feel real enough to me. It was a bit too futuristic. But
another thing I liked about the Excelsior and what you're talking about there, Swappers, is Sulu's a changed man. Do you know what I mean? You know, he's not the Sulu of, like, you know, pressing switches. When what's his name? The guy comes and he just says, "Is your
Christian
hearing?"
Slater.
Christian Slater. What does he say to him? Something like about you have hard of hearing
problems, mister.
Yeah, problem, mister. Do you know what I mean? He's like, he's the captain. He is the captain. Don't fuck with him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He has that
exactly.
attitude. He's not the Sulu of the past. He's this other Sulu. And then when Kirk says to him, from the Enterprise, we thank you, Mr. Sulu. And he's standing there with his crew behind him. And he says, it's great to be in one more adventure with you. He's in command.
Yeah.
So it was like dying for a TV show. It really was.
It really was. And I think
it was an organic progression as well, wasn't it? Because we'd seen his career before in Trek as a lower officer right up to that point. So being that age and with that experience, it made sense with him to be a character and a captain. And it would have been great with a series. That would have been great as a perfect opportunity to sort of to spring off into a new series, wouldn't it? About the Excelsior and move on from the Enterprise.
Yeah, and I think at the time, I mean, again, I wanted that just like you guys, and I think at the time, as we say, that this was coming to the end of the run with Harve Bennett and the original crew, and then the reins for the movies were being handed over to the Next Generation production team and the crew and the cast. And the TV series at the time, if I remember correctly, Next Generation was on, and they were probably 2 years away from DS9 starting, because that was 93, I think. So they were going to be in sort of like pre-production for that, and maybe they thought we're going in our own direction. We're doing the sort of Next Generation era verse. But again, it would have been so good having Sulu doing that. Those final scenes where you've got the Enterprise and the Excelsior just pounding the bird of prey with photon torpedoes. Oh, that's just great sci-fi for me. I love it. It's top drawer stuff.
Great ending.
Yeah. And you've restored my father's faith. You've restored my son's. It ends like that, and that's the start of the treaty that will get to Next Gen and the Alliance. So it's really good. I do enjoy it.
I love the Kirk thing. Mr. President, he literally dives. He literally jumps in the air and hits him on the ground. And then when he falls in the ground, he goes, Kirk, Enterprise. No hurt in arms or anything like that. No, he falls flat on his. How could he not be hurt? But anyway,
Do you know what? Brilliant. I always thought, and I still think back now, Scotty, with how out of shape he was. I swear there must have been a scene at some point where he's going up the steps and going, trying to get his breath halfway up before he gets to the assassin, because he got up there quite quickly. Really, he's quite spry.
Ending. Yeah, it's a really good ending. It's a really good end for the OG cast. What a fantastic ending with them signatures, and it was just made me feel sad when I was watching that in the cinema.
Definitely.
I was like, we're not going to see them again, So.
It felt like an end of an era, and it was emotional because, again, I wasn't around for the original 60s when it was on telly, but in the 80s, it was replayed on BBC Two weeknights at 6 o'clock. So I grew up with Star Trek, the original series. So it was these were familiar characters for me. They were like I said about Doctor Who, it was a comfort blanket for me. I was quite happy, relaxed watching one of these episodes or these movies. Great stuff. I think we'll move on now.
No, hold on. Just one more thing. The direction in the number 6 is really, really good, and you guys don't realize how good it was.
Nicholas Meyer.
Nicholas Meyer. Just give you an example, right? When everybody left the boardroom, and it was just Spock and Kirk, and the last line that Kirk says, you should have trusted me, and they have that shot where they're both at the different ends of the table. Physically, that shot's meant to say that they're both on the opposite sides of what they believe, and physically they show you that they've been separated between a huge table, which I thought was good. I'm pretty sure that was deliberate from Nicholas Meyer. So there were a lot of stuff like that in the film that displayed things subconsciously. It registers in your mind. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, I digress, because I think it's really well directed, this film.
And to be honest, for me, and I've said this before, if Paramount were wise, what would be a clever idea was actually to ask Nicholas Meyer to come back for a new series of Star Trek or as a consultant on it, because, you know, he was involved in, you know, for me growing up, a great era of Star Trek. And then we went into the, you know, we also had the Next Gen. It was for me, it was a golden era with so much Star Trek on the telly. But having him back, he's a good director. He's also a good writer as well. You know, he's very good at characters. That he should just be involved in any new production of a series, I think, because he just he got it, you know. But we won't get that. And then we move on to Generations, guys. So yeah. Swappers, what do you think about Star Trek Generations?
Well, I was a massive fan of Next Gen, so I was so excited to watch this, a cinematic episode, really, basically. And I didn't know much about the movie before I watched it. I tried to avoid spoilers as much as I could, and I definitely enjoyed it, but I felt a bit let down from what it could have been, and I thought that Kirk's end was nowhere near what I would have written for him personally, what I would have wanted for him. It was still a hero's death, but not as grand as it should have been, as he deserved. I liked the way the film looked. The uniforms were a bit confusing, though, to me, because they kept changing during the film.
Yeah.
I liked the new Enterprise B. I loved that. Wish we'd seen more of that. Although the captain seemed to be a bit incompetent, which is a bit strange. And the whole Nexus is a bit of an ex machina plot solve all device, where it's like, oh, we can do whatever, it's in the Nexus, you know. Oh, we can make it jump back in time, it's the Nexus. Oh, we can make it jump forward in time, it's the Nexus. It doesn't matter, it's the Nexus, which is a very, very weak part to that movie, and kind of takes the agency away from what's happening. So if, you know, the Nexus is all powerful and you can do that, and you can just go back in time to a certain point, then why couldn't they have just gone back to a certain point earlier and stopped all that happening when Kirk could have survived? You know, why did they have to do it right at that moment and get killed? You know, but apart from that, exactly. For what it was, I enjoyed it, but I can definitely acknowledge its shortcomings for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I mean, I enjoy it. It definitely has its shortcomings, but I do enjoy it. I think Matthew McGee said in the chat earlier, I don't know if you saw it, Swappers, but I certainly did. But last year when the Roddenberry Vault did that unification short.
Ote, was it? They're called Studio Ote or something?
Yeah, and it's had Kirk, you know, at his death on, you know, in Generations, and he's sort of walking through and seeing familiar faces, and then he sees Spock on his deathbed, and there's no talking in it. It's just all facial expressions and emotions, and it just, you know, that is a wonderful short that's proper Star Trek to me. And I think it leads on from Generations, and I think there were some nice moments in Generations. I do like seeing Kirk back. I do like seeing Kirk, you know, he turns up and he starts having the fist fight with Soren and kicks his ass after Picard's taken a battering. Those are nice things. The Enterprise D looks great on the big screen, I think. But there are some really cringy moments in it. I think the worst one for me is where you've got the Klingon women, Lursa and Bator, and they're watching Geordi going around the Enterprise, and they see Dr. Crusher, and they're like, ugh, and they're cringing at how like unattractive she is. There's bits like that don't work. And what's really strange is this movie, I think they've come out and said it, you know, the two guys that have gone on to better things, they said they did the end of Next Gen series, All Good Things, and that was superb. That was a great ending to Next Generation as a series. But they admit they kind of screwed it up on Generations. And again, to this day, it's not the death I wanted for Kirk. I to be honest, I never wanted to see a death for Kirk. You know, it's just he's an iconic hero. I just wanted to see him just off screen and kind of his adventures carry on in book form until they fade into obscurity. But there's this fascination these days. It's even worse now, isn't it? Where they've got to almost wrap it up with a death when you don't need it.
It's annoying. Yeah, it's really annoying. When you can wrap it up with a death, but have it a great death, or not even necessarily a death, but where they kind of transcend their physical form and become something greater. That's a better way of, because then they can't die. You can't kill that character from that point. They're going to live forever no matter what. And they've got the opportunity to maybe come back later on in physical form. Who knows? Or come, in some kind of other way. But I think it was the books that were set after that film got it right, and which is what I really wanted to see from Generations was was Kirk maybe jumping over to the Next Generation timeline and then living on in the future, as like sort of, we thought he was dead, but he actually like jumped in the Nexus, and that took him into the future, and he was like in this future version of Starfleet that he didn't know, and he was like, they said, "Oh, we could use your help as a captain if you wouldn't mind, being the captain of this ship, or even hanging around with the Next Gen crew for a little while before doing that." That's what I really would have loved to have seen, or some kind of crossover, proper crossover with all of the cast of the original series and the Next Gen in some way. That would have been just the best.
I think you're right. I think with that, I certainly think that when they did Star Trek Picard season 3, Terry Matalas and co clearly had read those novels, because when you watch, I think it's when you read Star Trek The Return, and it's Kirk being resurrected, I think from memory, I think it's the Romulans in alliance with the Borg. They resurrect Kirk, but he's an agent for them, and it's Spock that comes back to basically help him remember who he is. It's been quite a few years since I've read it, and it's really well done. But they had Kirk's body, and then of course in Picard season 3, you see in that science facility they've got Kirk's body. So I do think potentially they had read these novels, and I agree with you, because the books go on. Kirk carries on in the Next Generation era in the books, and I think he's got his own command at some point as well.
Yeah, one of the covers shows him in a Next Gen uniform, so I thought, wow, this is superb. I'd love to have seen that on screen.
So it's really, really, really well done, those books. And Ian, what do you think of Star Trek Generations?
I literally hated it. I thought
I knew that was coming.
Well, what fucker decided that Captain Kirk has to die that way? I mean, what fucking idiot decided that? How did that get past? I don't know. And I think Swappers is right. The MacGuffin is the Nexus. It didn't make any sense. He could have went back in time and stopped Kirk from getting destroyed or whatever. But then again, they didn't have any control over where they went back to. And the appearance of Guinan didn't make any sense either. I'm like, oh, okay. So they just shoved her in there. None of it was good for me when I was watching it. It started off well with the floating champagne bottle. And I thought, okay, this looks interesting, and it just went downhill from there as far as I was concerned. I was like, why the hell didn't Picard say to him, well, if you don't believe me, I met your person that worked on, it was Scotty. He met Scotty, didn't he, in the show?
Yeah.
So could have mentioned that. Then Kirk would have listened, that kind of thing. And it was just stupid. It was like them on horses and these two great captains, making eggs. It's like, what the fuck's that all about? Do you know what I mean? Couldn't you not think of something better than this?
And that whole bit with Picard, he's in France in a room when it's Christmas, and it's like he's got kids and stuff. I was thinking, this is really like ruining the pace of the movie here. What's this going to do?
It is.
I think you're right, and I think obviously they did the horse riding scenes because Shatner loves horses. I think Patrick Stewart loves horses as well. But it really does take you out of it at that point. I like the bit where he basically has a go at Picard and he says, "I was out saving the galaxy when you were in diapers." That's a nice bit. That's something Kirk would say, sort of like, show some respect, shut up. But you're right, Ian, because not only has he met Scotty, he's also met Spock. He's mind melded with Sarek, so he knows how important Spock is to Kirk. So you would think that would at least be a conversation with Kirk to basically say, "Oh, by the way, Spock is still alive. in our time, you know, and have that conversation. But again, when you watch the very first episode of Next Generation, you see McCoy as an ambassador, as an old man.
Yeah.
So you would think that Picard as a captain probably on his ship would have met with the ambassador at that point as well. So you've got McCoy, Scotty, and Spock that he's met. You would think there would be that conversation. You know, it's
whoever wrote the script is a fucking idiot, because obviously whoever wrote the script didn't investigate what happened in the past in Next Gen. So this is ridiculous. I was just rolling my eyes all the way through, and then when he fell, and then with that horrible dummy effect where, you know, was hanging onto the bar, and it was like you could tell it was a dummy, and it's like, did we make a difference? I'm like, what the fuck is this? Do you know what I mean? Captain Kirk dies under a couple of rocks. Yeah, he's Captain Kirk, for God's sakes. Total disrespect for the character of Captain Kirk, James T. Kirk, and the disrespect over the OG Star Trek, as far as I was concerned.
I will say at the ending, I like what his final shot is, and Shatner's talked about this, and he said, with Kirk dying in a situation like that, Kirk would certainly be, at that point, he'd be going eyes open, like going like wonder, because about what he's seeing, what's coming. And I like that Shatner wanted that. So he's like, oh my, you know, and then he goes, and then it fades out to the badge on the rocks, doesn't it? But again, as I was saying before, it's really nice now that they've done that unification thing last year, because...
Well, how did he get into the Nexus? How did Spock get into the Nexus? Because the Nexus no, Spock in the unification thing. So the Nexus is something that happens every 1 billion years or something like that. It's an occurrence that that happens very rarely, and Zorin found out when it was happening, right? And so that's why he wanted the ship to go, because he wanted to go back with his family, right? So how did Spock find out where the Nexus, and how did he get into the Nexus?
Again, there's the grey area on that, because when I was watching it, mate, I don't know if when he sees, you know, when he sits with Spock on Spock's deathbed at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know in that short. I'm not so sure that's the Nexus at that point. I'm
not
almost
talking about
thinking
that. I'm talking about when that the first one they did, when they had Spock, he's looking out the window, and then next thing you know, he's on top of the rocks, and he sees the badge.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I'm like, all right, that's nice, but how did Spock? How did he get into the Nexus?
I don't think that was the Nexus. I don't think that was the Nexus. The Nexus had left the planet behind at that point, and because it passes over the ground.
You're right. Yeah.
So the events of what happened inside it were kind of left behind.
No, hold on. You're right. Yeah. You're right, because it's, I don't know what planet they were on, but Zorin wanted to open something, didn't he? So he can go in.
He wanted to go and live in it. Yeah.
That was So where were
he
they?
Wanted to hit him.
But that didn't make any sense either, because didn't correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Didn't Picard go into the Nexus, and when he went into the Nexus, he met Kirk there, right?
No,
so
he met Guinan there.
Yeah, Guinan.
No, he met Guinan, and then Guinan's explaining to him about Soren and about he's from the same race, the same species. And then Picard says to Guinan, "Come back with me, you know, we'll stop Soren together," and she goes, "I can't, I already exist there," you know, something like, I'm an echo of the one that's actually in the universe. And then basically she goes, "I can't help, but I'm betting I know someone who can." And then it cuts to, you're right, actually I correct myself, you're right, because it jumps, then she links it so that Picard then goes to Kirk in his point in the Nexus. So he wakes up while he's outside cutting the wood.
Yeah, hold on. So is he in the Nexus then?
Yes, you're right. He is in the Nexus there.
So if he's in the
Kirk
Nexus,
is in there as well.
And Kirk is in there, and Kirk dies in the Nexus, then what was Zorin doing there? Oh, Zorin went in there. So Zorin was opening something? I'm confused.
No. Zorin's plan was to because he knew this thing was coming, and he planned this. He orchestrated this whole thing for like years and years before. He set up a missile to fire into the sun, so the sun would go nova, send out a shockwave, which would then reposition the planet. Or reposition the Nexus, one of the two, and make it easier for him to get into it because he couldn't reach it otherwise. So therefore, by shifting,
but weren't they in the Nexus in the first place?
No.
Kirk. So where was Kirk?
Kirk went into the Nexus because the Enterprise B got hit by it in space, and Kirk was he was or something hit it. I can't quite remember now, but he went down to fix something in the ship, and then the Nexus took him away. It like absorbed him and it flew off. Yeah.
So start at the beginning of the film. You've got the Enterprise B out on its maiden, its maiden voyage, and Kirk's on there and invited on with Scotty and Chekhov.
Yeah.
And then you get the bit where Kirk goes down because they find those two ships that are being ripped apart by Nexus. There's that bit. So then Kirk. Obviously, the Nexus hits the Enterprise B and Kirk gets dragged into it.
Yeah.
But you also then see Soren on the Enterprise B as well because he was on one of those ships. And him and all those others, all they wanted to do was get into the Nexus because he'd lost his family by the Borg. So all he wanted to do was live with them in the Nexus in his reality. So he was trying to, like you say, do everything he can to get it so he could go into it. And then what happens is, inadvertently, Picard fails to stop him the first time round, and the Nexus takes Picard in as well as Soren. And then that's where Picard does that, like you were saying, Chappers, about he sees himself in Paris with the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And then Guinan says there's someone else that might be able to help you, and he finds Kirk, who to him it's just happened. Kirk's in the Nexus, but in his own reality of it. So he's chopping wood with an axe outside his house.
Okay, so Kirk is in the Nexus.
Yeah.
So when he dies, is he still in the Nexus?
Well, he died in the real world.
How?
So he didn't die in the Nexus. Well, when the whole thing fell down, when he was crushed.
But how did they get to that point? Because they're on horses, and the next thing you know, they're trying to stop Soren.
They leave
I'm
it.
confused.
Picard,
I don't know.
They leave it. They're talking on horses, and then Picard says to him, "Come back to me, make a difference one more time." And then you see them ride out, and you see the white flash, and then they come back out into reality. Okay. Just like Chappers was saying, at the moment they need to stop Soren, but Chappers is right. They could have just gone, "Why don't we go 30 days earlier and just arrest him?"
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So never mind. Just confusing. I hated it. I hated the whole thing.
So that
I don't think it was thought through as well as it could have been in the conception stage.
Felt rushed. Yeah, felt rushed. And
I think they've admitted that as well.
I can't even think of anything great that Data did in it at all. Nothing, actually. I remember the Enterprise crashed. That's all I remember.
Data swore at one point.
Yeah, that's right. He did. And again, that was the bit where I was like,
absolute
I'm not sure
rubbish.
I'm liking this emotion ship nonsense.
Yeah, and absolute rubbish.
And then we move on to the next one, which is First Contact, which for me is a superb Star Trek movie.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Scary as well.
So Chappers, starting with you, what's your thoughts on First Contact?
First Contact.
So
the one between them was Insurrection, wasn't it? Or was that the one after it? I can't remember now.
After it, yeah.
You're right. Yeah. I will just say quickly about Generations. One of the greatest lines that's ever been said in any of Star Trek ever by Malcolm McDowell's character, which was "Time is the fire in which we burn."
Yeah,
I thought it was superb. It was a great scene. That whole scene was fantastic. It's some really great thespian acting between the two of them.
He got death threats, didn't he?
As well. Yeah,
he got death threats for killing Kirk.
Wow, that's insane, isn't it?
The writers should have got death threats. The writers were the idiots that did that to Kirk. Ridiculous.
True.
Absolutely.
But that just goes to show, doesn't it, the passion that fandoms have, and they should be respected. Fans should absolutely be respected for supporting these things with their mind, body, soul, and pocket for most of their lives. And then, you get these big corporations that come along, buy them up, and just treat them like crap. And people are understandably utterly heartbroken. And a lot of people just say like, "Oh, what are you talking about? It's only a stupid film or only a stupid show." It's like, hey, you have no idea, mate. You have no idea. I'm sure you'll go to the sports game on a weekend and scream, and try and punch someone in the face if your team loses or something. But oh no, it's different if it's a silly film or a silly movie. It's this ridiculous. So the fans and the audience deserve a lot more respect as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, as far as First Contact goes, I was so excited when I found out about this film with being a Next Generation movie with the Borg in it. I just thought this is going to be amazing, because we've had the Borg a lot in the TV show, but in a movie it's something else. We could be seeing some incredible stuff here on the big screen. And for the most part, I left satisfied from that movie. There was a few things I didn't like about it, about that girl, I can't remember her name now. Was it Lily, who was supposed to be Picard's love interest?
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I didn't mind her, but she was unnecessary completely. I loved the Zephram Cochrane bit. The time travel bit, again, time travel gets a bit overused. I would have preferred it if it was just, kept in the Next Generation era and not involving in any other time frames, because things get messy at that point. And if at this point it's like everyone's going back in time now, you could just change anything you want at any point, at any time, just because you think, oh, I want to change this. Okay, let's all go back in time and change Kirk's death, shall we? But I think they did it quite well. I would have preferred if it was just an all-out war from the Federation and the Borg for the entire movie. I would have just loved that, a huge space battle. And I felt a bit shortchanged by the fact it was only one Borg cube, and then they went back in time, and then the film calms down a lot. And you're like, oh no, this is the Borg we're talking about. Why has it gone quiet? But I thought it was great. From what we got, I really enjoyed it. Picard was great. Data was great. I like Geordi in it with his new eyes. I loved Zephram Cochrane and going into the initiation and the earliest period of Starfleet, what became Starfleet and the Federation. The Zephram Cochrane ship, I've forgotten the name of. The involvement of looking back at the Earth in that time as well, and seeing which was our future but their past was interesting. The Borg Queen was a great addition, even though the Borg never really should have a queen. I thought it was well done. I really enjoyed that. It was what they did with it was done really well. I loved the duality of Data and his wanting to be human, and the Borg playing with that. The Borg are kind of artificial and robotic and also organic, and Data is an android, and I loved the parallels there between those two. That was a great opportunity for them to put that in. Data flipping his motion chip on and off, I really enjoyed. Although Data is obviously better when he hasn't got an emotion chip, I think that works really well. And it was kind of held parallels to Aliens as well in it, but with the Borg being the aliens and them walking around the corridors of the ship with blaster rifles and things. I thought that added a really nice aspect to it, and sort of shot back a bit to the original series when it felt a bit more grounded and a bit more militaristic. I like that bit. And the whole sequence on the deflector dish when they ejected it into space. The new Enterprise, my God, that was incredible. What an amazing design the Enterprise E was. And I mean, I like the Enterprise D, but the Enterprise E just blew it out of the water. And that's what I always wanted from a next generation starship. And I still, to this day, that's probably my favorite iteration of the Enterprise. Just utterly gorgeous ship. And everything about it. And that really annoyed me when the Borg started assimilating. I was like, no, it's brand new. Leave it alone. I don't want to stop on the ship. I don't want it to be touched. Stop it. Stop what you're doing. But it worked out great, and the ship looked just amazing. And I loved the bit with Zephram Cochrane flying into space, and the Enterprise appears, and he's like, what the hell is that? And the whole looking into the future and seeing what Starfleet could be. And he got his kind of validation of his years of hard work of putting in his dream of building this starship and a warp drive starship, and seeing what it's eventually going to turn into, which was the Enterprise. I loved all that. But looking back in re-watches, it doesn't hold up as well, but it's still one of the better films, definitely. But yeah, that's my two pence on it.
Ian?
I liked it. I thought it was very well done. I thought the dovetailing between what was happening on the planet and what was happening in the Enterprise was really good. I loved the throwback to the hologram and the what is it, the
detective
the detective thing was great. I thought it was a really good movie. I loved the idea that I thought that the Borgs were scarier in that film than they ever was on a TV show.
Yeah.
Especially if they get you and all those things go into you, you're doomed, really.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a really good movie. And I loved the humor in it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought, what you call it? Who's the guy who directed it?
Jonathan Frakes.
Jonathan Frakes. He did a really good job.
Yeah.
On it. I just thought it was just a really entertaining movie. The music was great because it was Jerry Goldsmith again. I didn't mind that woman Swappers. I didn't really mind her. I like the idea where she's wide-eyed when she's on the ship and she was like, we had to scrape X amount of metals just to make this and look at this and stuff like that. I thought it was great. And when she wide-eyed when she saw the the big hole in the wall, and it was obviously with the force field on. So I loved all that stuff. And I thought there's only one bit where what's his name? Patrick Stewart went mental with his acting. Was the bit where he goes, "No!" He starts making no. I thought that was a bit theatrical, but again, love the ending. Him and Data versus the Borg Queen, which was really good. It's just I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And
I thought there was I mean, with Picard overacting a little bit there, you kind of have to acknowledge the fact that he did get assimilated by them at one time, so it probably affected him in that way, so it probably would have, which I thought was a good duality there, they're bringing that back. And Picard he saw the Borg Queen before somehow in his mind, obviously when he'd been assimilated. I thought that was all great. The inclusion of all those and nodding back to those episodes was superb as well. I really loved the way they did that. So I
like the cameo of Barclay as well, which I thought was a lot of fun. Yeah, he was.
Can I shake your hand?
Yeah, right, Barclay. But it was. I thought it was a really good film personally. And I thought, it really did work really well. And again, right, it gave us what we wanted, a true Star Trek adventure as a movie, so that's what it gave us.
I mean, the standout for me in this film, without a doubt, is Michael Dorn as Worf. Because
he's great. Absolutely
just a bit on the Brit where Picard calls him a coward. And he's like, if you were ever any other man, I would kill you where you stand. And it's like, brilliant, and then just the bit at the end where he's hand to hand outside the ship with the Borg, when it's adapted to his rifle, and he takes the air's coming out of his leg and he's managed to get it in on the neck of the Borg. It's great stuff. I think I still love the beginning part of it as well, with just the Federation ships assaulting the Borg cube. That's really well done.
I wanted that to go on for so much longer. I could have done with a good 5 more minutes with that, with a lot more ships. And the bit with the Defiant turns up is just absolutely legendary.
What did Wolf say? Today's a good day to die. That's a great scene.
I do love it where he smacks the console because there's no power to it whatsoever. It's just drifting the Defiant, and then the Enterprise turns up. But I think I've said before, this is the start of when they were just making up excuses for Worf to mysteriously appear back on the Enterprise when he was on DS9.
It worked though, but still, you
this one did
yourself, don't you? That this is a little bit of a shoehorn. But I did love the bit there in that battle when the Defiant turns up with Worf, and you're like, "Come on!" And there's this, and it just lays into the Borg cube and really does it some serious damage, even though it does get taken out. But Worf is proud because he's done his duty, and he's like, "This is a hero's death." And then
prepare for ramming speed.
I love that. And then obviously they're all beamed aboard the Enterprise to save them. And
they told them not to get involved, didn't they? It was from not to get involved because Picard might be turned if he gets close.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. But he does get involved. You're right. But I like that. But Riker then says that. Riker says to Worf then, doesn't he? Like something about the Defiant. He says it's a tough little ship, and then Worf goes little.
Yeah. I like
the penis measuring contest going on.
Brilliant.
The beginning sequence as well. After the credits, you see him in the Borg thing, don't you? And it goes straight into his eye, and it comes out, and it's like a really good, really well thought out beginning sequence. It's a good movie. You can't ask for anything more than what happened in that film. It's a really good, solid. It's probably the best Next Generation film out of all of them, in my opinion.
Yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, the next one, guys, Insurrection.
Oh God, that sucks. It's big time.
Take it away.
It is the worst Star Trek film I've seen. It's just rubbish, totally rubbish.
Yeah.
Didn't care about anyone. Didn't care about the plot. The stupid. You knew what they were going to do at the ending. You knew that when Data sacrificed himself, he put himself into that little thing. So they were going to use his brother and take the chip out of his brother and bring him back. But because it flopped so badly.
Oh, you're about Nemesis.
Yeah. Oh, which one's this one?
Insurrection is the one where they go to the planet Baku, I think it's called, where
that one is stretching the skin and all that rubbish.
Yeah,
that was rubbish. I don't even want to talk about that film. That was just absolute dog shit, wasn't it? Let's face it. Absolutely.
Well, coming off the back of Generations, I was so excited. I was thinking, oh, come on, this is going to be awesome. We've got the Enterprise E back. We've got all their experiences from all the the series and the previous movies and stuff. Surely this is going to be knocked out of the park.
The last two was shit.
And it was really weak, unfortunately. It was basically like an average episode of the Next Gen. And it didn't deserve to be in a big screen movie at all. The story didn't work. The premise of it was good, with a planet that turns you, it rejuvenates you and turns you young again, which can be a very sort of sought after element. I can see why
the corruption of the Federation and all of that. That was good.
And I did think, like, when I was watching this, like, oh, not this trope again. They're introducing an admiral who's an arsehole. It's like, why are all admirals in Star Trek always arseholes? Why are they always idiots? I don't understand.
No vetting, is there?
As soon as an admiral turns up, you just immediately go, you bastard, I hate you already, because I know what you're all like. Why is it? As soon as they become admirals, they just turn into idiots. They just turn into bastards straight away. So, that was all a bit sort of tropey and a bit obvious, but it had some elements that I liked, but on the whole, it's very, very forgettable. Shouldn't have been part of the movie series, but I appreciated. I appreciated the bit with the ship where they transport everybody onto it, and it's like a hollow ship, isn't it? And they make everyone think that they're still on the Enterprise or still on another ship, and they fool people into thinking they're still in the same place, but in reality, they've all been beamed from one location to another, and they're going to use it to beam all the villagers onto this ship, so they wouldn't know any different, and then ship them off the planet. And I love that concept because it leads me into philosophy and how humans can be manipulated, and what really happened to us all in 2012. Did the world really end? Were we all beamed off the planet into like a horrible nightmare planet where everything went crap and Earth was taken over by some alien? That's what ever since I saw that film, I've been thinking of that, and ever since 2012, I've been thinking that. Like, it just makes me wonder every single time, and I think it's not out of the realms of possibility. And Star Trek always, Star Trek always took. I know this for a fact. Gene Roddenberry in the 60s always took elements that were given to him by the CIA and the FBI about what's really going on in the government and behind the scenes and with the space program and ETs and stuff, which I know do exist, and use them in his series as plot ideas and story ideas as a formation of what they call drip feed disclosure to the public. So eventually, in several decades' time, everyone's going, yeah, aliens in the sky, who cares? We've seen Star Trek, we know what it's all about. This is exactly the reason they did it. So I know that Roddenberry was copied in with a lot of covert stuff that the government and the black military were doing, and also Chris Carter with the X-Files, with the same guy. With they did it with Stargate. They did it with all these other different sci-fi shows. So when I see episodes like this with something like the hollow ship in it, it just makes me wonder straight away, what's going on in reality and what's going on with sci-fi, which influences which. So, yeah.
You're going to see a giant alien appear any second now, coming towards me with a big probe and cattle prod. And I'll go off cam.
I saw the last two. I thought it ended with this one, but obviously I'm wrong. Is this the one with the Doom buggy in the beginning? With
No, that's the
that's Nemesis.
I haven't seen Nemesis. So
both of them are absolute dog shit. Both of them. I remember watching this one. Is this the one where Data's head floats? He's got like no body, or is that the other one?
Because he's in like a stealth suit.
Yeah.
They're watching the Baku.
Yeah,
from a secret facility.
Sitting there watching it in the cinema, going, "This is just crap." And then I came out of the cinema thinking, "What happened? Why did they make this film so awful?" And then the other one wasn't even better either. The other one was just rubbish as well. Just like, why? Anyway, that's enough about that.
Yeah.
I can't anymore.
Moving on to the next one, guys. What are your thoughts? Again, you've kind of said Ian, but Nemesis. So swappers, what are your thoughts on Nemesis? Yeah, and Ian.
This is the only one I haven't watched. I read a review in SFX magazine back in the day, and they slated it. And I just thought, oof,
young Picard.
Yeah, I just didn't want
Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I didn't want my memory of Next Generation sport for me, so I dodged this one completely. When I saw Tom Hardy in it as Picard's clone, I was completely put off. I like the look of the Remans. I thought they were really interesting. But I also read that when they were in production for this movie, they were trying to recapture the magic of Wrath of Khan. So they needed a nemesis for Picard, like Khan was a nemesis for Kirk. So they ended up thinking up an idea of creating a clone of Picard for it. And I just thought, oh no, I'm not sure the idea. I like the idea of them trying to retread, where's the new ideas? Come on, guys, you're just making so, and you've got to really go some to try and beat a villain as big as the Borg. So I never bothered watching it. I thought I'll catch it on video at one point in the future. But I've never heard anyone say, damn, one good thing about this movie. So I've never felt the inclination to go back and watch it.
It's rubbish. Absolute rubbish. The ending, you could see it coming a mile away. And because Spock died in Wrath of Khan, they wanted someone big to die in this one. And it was Data. And, you knew how they were going to bring back Data, but it didn't go that far because this film flopped big time. Everybody was just tired of Star Trek at that moment in time. And it was just, it was reflected on the writing as well. So this one was absolute shit. I was so bored watching the film in the cinema. I was thinking, why am I even here? Why did I pay my money to see this? It's absolute shit. So,
I agree. I agree with you guys on it. It's not good, at all. This movie. I mean, the whole convoluted plan to create an exact copy of Data, again, another version of a Data type android, to try and tease them to get, well, I forget now. I mean, I need to go back and watch it, but it's almost like to try and
That's how bad it is.
To spy on them or something like that, because it's spying on the Enterprise later on. I didn't understand why. It was very peculiar. It's so ridiculous. But also, I always thought to myself, well, so he needs DNA from Picard, Tom Hardy's version, to survive. You're telling me of the Romulan Empire couldn't get hold of some DNA of Picard at some point, without having to go to this massive plan of getting hold of him. And then they've got the one ship that they're going to use just to wipe out all of humanity. And I just, the longer it went on, I was like, yeah, this is too much of a stretch. This really isn't selling it for me. And
absolutely.
I think the only positive out of this is the fact that from here we got the Star Trek Titan novels where Riker was, captaining the Titan. They were really good. That picked up straight after Nemesis, but it was just very peculiar. I didn't understand I didn't like the whole Troy being raped by a Reman, scenes as well. The mind rape and all of that. It just, I don't know. It
was rubbish. It was rubbish.
Yeah.
They kind of they kind of fell after First Contact. They literally fell on their ass. Nobody had any good ideas for the last two films. They were absolute shit. And again, they went back and try and copy the glory days of Spock dying and stuff, and it was obvious what they were doing. And at that moment in time, I fell out of love with the movies.
Yeah, Swappers was right, where they were copying Wrath of Khan, and I got to that point. I remember someone asking me at work when it came out, Nemesis, and I said, it needs to rest now. If they're going back and they're just literally copying earlier movies, then they just need to call it a day for a while and just focus on the TV series, because Enterprise had just started as well. So, I love Enterprise. I really enjoy it. So I was quite happy with that. I didn't need the movies, and that's that really. But again, so Ian, you've said, and we'll cut it down tonight. I mean, you've said Search for Spock is your favorite movie. Okay. Chappers, what's your favorite movie out of all of them?
It's tough between 2 and 3, but I'll go for 2.
Yeah. Likewise for me. And what's the worst out of all of them, guys?
The last 2 shit ones.
Would you say above 5?
So no. At least 5 was trying. The other 2 just seemed like it. They just didn't care. The last 2 generation films, like they didn't care. But at least William Shatner was trying to make a good Star Trek film. He was just badly guided. That's all. But out of the OG ones, Star Trek 5 is the worst. And out of the next gen ones, the last 2 films are just absolute shit. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, what I was going to say to everybody, I'm gonna let these brilliant people sort of introduce where they can be found on the internet. It's been great fun with these guys again tonight. So thanks to the Mega Geek and Swappers for coming on again. I really appreciate it. Swappers, where can you be found on the YouTube, my friend, and elsewhere?
I am
interweb.
Star Wars Retold. Just type in Star Wars : Retold. You should find me. We've got 11 chapters of my sequel trilogy novel adapted into full audio cast drama, ready to be heard with all the sound effects, John Williams music, and I've been getting some good feedback on it. So it's basically a retelling of how I thought the sequel trilogy should have gone after Episode 7, and I think it's a bit more of a believable story. Does the characters more justice. And you can find the channel right there. Please leave comments and likes and things like that, because I really do appreciate it if you do pay a visit and do that. And one thing I love is the interaction. So I always love a good bit of feedback. Thanks very much.
Yeah, brilliant. And Ian, tell us where else you can be found, and also tell us about the very imminent Rebecca Gold premiere.
So you could find me on the Brown Alliance channel. Also, you could find me on this channel, and you could follow me on Instagram and X and YouTube, which is the Rebecca Gold channel. You can follow me there, but just don't follow me home, obviously. With the Rebecca Gold, there's going to be a premiere on the 6th of December. If you contributed to Rebecca Gold and you live in London and you want to come to the premiere, just drop me a line and you'll get an invite to the premiere. You might as well come because you contributed. Obviously, I'll check, see if you did contribute, whether you're lying. I'll check on that. But Rebecca Gold will probably have 1 week's release. And then it'll be gone forever, because we've got a few distributors that want to take it and put it on various channels, whatever. Rebecca Gold, it's a movie. It isn't a web series. The first season was a web series. This is a movie. So there you go. That's where you can find me, and that's my stuff. So there you go.
Yeah, brilliant. And I wanted to thank everyone in the chat. Appreciate you being with us tonight. If you've enjoyed the show, certainly give us a like, and if you're new here, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of what we do. And also feel free to comment as well. Give us your rankings of Star Trek movies in the comments. And, other than that, we've got the Stargate SG-1 live watch along on Sunday. And that's at 12:30 p.m. PST, at 8:30 p.m. UK. So if you want to come into that, we do 2 episodes a week, and we just geek out enjoying Stargate SG-1. But other than that, I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll see you again. But thanks for your time. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.